Calling this meeting to order at 5 o'clock. We will go through our opening procedures here. We're going to start with public comment on items that are not on the agenda. Those of you who've been here before know that this is an opportunity for the public to speak onto the record on items that are not on our agenda tonight. We do ask that people limit their comments to 3 minutes. Please be aware that because of Brown Act restrictions, we can't react to or act on your requests, but we can incorporate them into a future agenda item. Is there anyone here for public comment on items that are not on the agenda tonight? Okay, moving on. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Look, can some of the kids help us? Come on. The flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to, is there anything to report from closed session?
There is nothing to report from closed session.
Excellent. And we are going to approve the agenda. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Trustee Joseph, looking for a second.
Second.
Trustee Irwin, any discussion? Any changes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is adopted as written. We're lucky to have an educational showcase here tonight. I understand we have basic English language arts.
You want me to, oh, you're going,
I'm not going to connect right now.
oh, okay. Okay, if I can.
Yeah, go for it. Hi, everyone. So excited to see so many smiling faces and our stars for our show tonight. Thank you for coming to help us out. My name is Michael Bessonette, and I teach first grade and also in the Idea Studio Makerspace at Basich. I also lead the English Language Arts Committee at Basich, and we have several fabulous teachers here to give you an idea of some of the educational shifts we're making as far as reading instruction goes in our classrooms. So we have kindergarten, first grade, and second grade friends and students and teachers that are going to show some of the new things that they are using in their classroom to teach beginning reading.
All right, my name's Erica Johnson. This is
Claire Adams.
Claire Adams, and we teach kindergarten. Oh, microphone. And we're really excited to present what we've been doing this year so far in our English Language Arts curriculum. So in kindergarten, we've been using UFLI, which is University of Florida Literacy Institute, to support our youngest Basich Bears. We have a few of them here today. And with this program, students are building a strong phonics foundation to support reading and writing. And one fun activity we use is a blending board. So we have it out here on the display. This is one that Claire made for her class. She has how many in your class?
25.
So 25 kids, but 25 blending boards?
No, haven't gone to that yet.
Oh, okay. So, but she has like
Small groups.
probably like 12 blending
Yeah.
boards, so she can run them in small groups. And since some of our students are still learning their letters and building letter sound correspondence, it helps them. This is a great tool for that, and also helps build alphabetic knowledge and where the letters are in the alphabet. We also love using this program because it is a great physical fine motor and actually gross motor skill activity, because the kids have to get up and they have to move things around, and we also use some other movements that we'll show you today to help support literacy. We have some brave yellow bees here, and they're going to show you how to use this tool, or how we use this tool in the classroom, and how to segment and blend words, so as well as how to hear the sounds in words. So here we go.
Make the word fact. they're going, they're able to segment the sound, and if they get stuck. Nice. Let's turn sat into mat. Mat.
So the students are taking off the letters. Ah.
Let's turn that into bat. Remember, behind the belly. Behind the belly. Nice. Let's turn that. Now this sound's gonna change. What sound are we changing? The first, the middle, or the last? What sound are we just changing? The first, you're right. Now that we're gonna change the middle, you're gonna change the vowel. You change that into bit. The it. It. Big blue. And it's a vowel, and then there are vowels that red. There you go. Way to go. Let's turn bit into sit. And these are all letters that the students have been working on, and hopefully so they're familiar with them already to give them confidence in this skill. Let's turn bit into, ready? I'm gonna give you a hard one, level 2. Bit. It. What sound are we changing? No? Let's change sit into. Let's do sid. Good. We try a 4-letter one. You ready for that one? Okay. Let's turn sid into. Now this is something I haven't learned, but they love to get me down a little something more sometimes. Let's move our letters down 1 box because we're gonna add an extra sound. Move down 1 box. Now we're gonna make slid. What sound are we missing? Ooh. What we're doing? Slid. Nice job. Awesome. Think we're all done? Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Good job.
Hi, my name is Isabella Fanning and I teach first grade at Basage. And I have with me Adeline and Clark. And they're in my 10th grade class. And you guys can put them over this way for just a minute. So today, they are here to help demonstrate some of the multisensory strategies that we've been practicing in phonics. Adeline's going to show us how, or show you how to use sound boxes. That's what this is. Sound boxes help children count the number of phonemes or sounds in a word by sliding up the discs to the cells at the top of the sound boxes and then writing the word afterwards. So she's going to show you how we use that. And then Clark's going to show you another activity. So if you'll come over this way, I'll have her do it up here so you can see it. Okay, that's one way. Okay, so let me get you a marker. Okay, Adeline, will you, we're going to say the word together first. Flat, say it with me, flat. Okay, and now as you say the sounds, move up the discs in the word flat.
Flat.
Good job. Now you're going to write the word flat. Great. And Adeline, could you give a sentence with flat?
I flattened cookie dough.
I flattened cookie dough. Nice job. You stretched it out too and added a little bit more to it. So this is a great way to introduce vocabulary too. So there not only is it a way to break the word apart into sounds, but also bring in new vocabulary or introduce vocabulary for certain topics or stories that we're reading. Let's do another one. Let's do chin. So say chin with me. Chin.
Chin.
Okay. And how many taps or how many sounds are in that word? 3. Okay, go ahead and write chin. Great. And so chin has 3 sounds, but how many letters are there, Adeline?
4.
There are
'cause
4.
There's a diagram in the first.
Yeah, the first 2 letters are a diagraph. So even though they're not the same number of sounds as that match the number of words, number of letters in the word, this is a great way to show that example and apply the alphabetic understanding of how to make certain sounds. Let's try one last one. The word is flake. Say the word flake with me. Flake. Okay. Great, very nice. Go ahead and read the word one last time. Flake. Can you use it in a sentence?
There were snowflakes in a blizzard.
Great, nice job. And again, how many sounds are in the word, Adeline?
4, but there's 5 letters.
Yeah.
Because there's a silent E.
Yeah. So again, sometimes words have less sounds than they do have letters. And sometimes we have to memorize certain vocabulary. That's okay. Certain vocabulary rules to help us spell words too. All right. Nice job. Let's give her a round of applause. And then next I have Clark Johnson here, and he's going to show how we use word ladders. And a word ladder is it's an activity where a word is changed by deleting or adding letters to create a new word based on some clues. So we thought it'd be fun if Clark gave you guys a chance to practice it. So we're going to give you some tools so that you can practice using them.
So nervous. Like, what did I get this from?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just like, since you're typing.
Oh, sure.
Okay, cool. Right. So Clark's going to give you a word to write down first, and then he will give you some clues to change that word. And you'll change either one letter or maybe 2 letters, or delete a letter too.
Write the letter stop.
Did you hear the word?
Mhm.
In the ground after a tree is cut down.
Mm.
Am I supposed to release them?
Oh, okay. Should be writing up here.
Is that right, Clark?
What am I supposed to? Oh, I'm supposed to.
Okay. Like Wordle.
The one letter is still saying of a different. You do this when you eat in a tent outside.
What was that original word?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, what is that?
So you won't have a letter,
You'll have 4 letters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then you change one of them.
Okay, got it.
I was thinking, how can I get to snore?
Oh.
Harder than I.
Hard.
That's a hard, I've never done it.
Yeah,
That's all I know.
thank you, Clark.
Thank you. That was like really fun. Thank you. That was really fun.
Oh, you okay?
Sorry.
So sorry. Thank you, honey.
Calling workers. Thank you, Isabella.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how about summer? You can be right here. So Summer and Henry are second graders, and they're here to help me demonstrate an exciting little tool that we've just met, and that's called a Bumpy Board. It's another multisensory tool for our phonics instruction, and particularly for it's helping us with learning heart words. So heart words are words that we have to take to heart because they're not following all the sound letter expected sound letter relationships. And so having multisensory tools are ways for us to reinforce that learning and take it to heart. So in this activity, you're going to pick a crayon and then you're going to have a piece of paper to write on. And I'll be doing the same thing. All right. And so you pick the color. And so in what would happen first is that I say the word, I'll say, so today we're going to learn how to spell said. And so I show you how to spell said first. We're spelling it with an S, an A, an I, and a D. Said. And so as you're writing said, make sure that you're bumping your lowercase s between the baseline and the midline. Now it's your turn to S, A, I, D. And let's say it together. Let's do it 2 more times and you guys say it with me, okay? Henry and Summer, are you ready? S, A, I, D. One more time. Henry too. S, A, I, D. Said. Said. Right across. Said. Yes. And so after that, we can feel the word letter by letter with our fingers. So put your finger on S. S, A, I, D. Said. So 2 more times. S, A, I, D, said. And then we put the paper underneath the bumpy board. And now we can look at the letters through the bumpy board and we just trace them across and you can feel that resistance from the bumpy board. One more time. So that think that's S,
A, I, D, Z. What time? S, A, I, D, Z. And one more time. S, A, I, Z. And then we're turning the paper over and we're gonna smooth to the pencil. We're gonna write Z 3 times. All right. Okay, so for summer. Mhm. All right. Now we're gonna make sure that bump that lowercase letter again.
Bumpy board teacher.
Yes, let's remove the bumpy board. I'm sorry. Thank you. All right. And so we're gonna just now with our pencil and the paper practice set, we're gonna write it 3 times. S, A, I, D, Z. One more time. Right next to it. S, A, I, D, Z. One more time. S, A. And then you get to write a sentence. And it might include quotation marks if you like. I said, comma, or mom said. Capitals at the beginning of the sentence, periods at the end, or a question mark if it's a question, exclamation mark if someone's excited, upset. Would you like to share your sentence with the board? All right.
I
You want to put, yeah.
Get to work.
Sound familiar?
It's mine from Annie.
Yeah.
Okay. She's just. It's Henry's line. Tie-in.
Maybe you can repeat that one because you get to say.
I said get to work.
In what sentence did you?
I said hello to my friend.
All right. Nice. Great. Thank you. Okay. You.
You have any questions or comments for our participants or?
A comment and a question. I appreciated how sort of visual and physical so many of these things are, and obviously that's a big change from many of us didn't have those kinds of things growing up. So that's super interesting to see. I'm curious about the bumpy board. Where are my friends that did the bumpy board? What do you think about the bumpy board? That looks kind of interesting. It's fun. What's fun about it? What's the theory behind the bumpy board? What's the idea? That it reminds people about it, or?
So it's a multi-sensory tool.
Yeah.
And it gives tactile feedback.
Right.
As you're writing. So there's some resistance. So as you're
Interesting.
filling the letters, you can feel I just kind of thought that.
Mhm.
Interesting.
So reinforces the learning,
Uh-huh.
and how it supports memory.
Hmm.
So it's both tactile, and then also you can punch it the letter to
Right.
and you get to study down and you need to found before so you see it through so it's an all sensory.
Hmm.
And the idea is what's interesting to me when we did the workshop with Martinez recently is that having the different multi-sensory experiences internally at the same time is not overwhelming, actually just it's a chance for different students to latch on to a different part of the same experience.
Yeah.
And one thing will teach for one and another for another. And it's also engaging, so like the same is fun, so whatever more fun is more.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. Interesting. Any other comments or questions?
Just a couple comments. Emily, you have amazing handwriting.
Yeah.
Way better than me.
Better than mine.
And Clark, I bet you're a good Wordle player. Yeah.
Plenty of time for that.
You will soon.
And I had a question. Maybe I don't know who wants to answer this, but just like the change in curriculum and that transition as a teacher, how's that been for you? And has it been exciting? Has it been a learning curve? Like, yeah, how do you feel about it?
All of the above, I
Okay.
think. I think it's really exciting that we're trying to really get our foundational reading instruction aligned with evidence and research. It's also been a challenge because we're shifting away from something that we've done for quite a while. And so we're exploring and trying some new things. And that can bring some uncertainty too. It can also bring a chance to learn new things also. So a lot of us are embracing it and kind of jumping in, but it can also be frustrating too when you're like, I don't want my teacher plan and my stuff and I'm ready to go and I can focus on that. But we're jumping and help out.
I discovered the bunny board last year and I just kind of wanted to try it out and started using them last year and I saw a huge growth in my students and their ability to learn the words, remember the words. I had kids even at choice time, right? When they get to choose their activity that they want to do. Can we do the bunny board? I can do the bunny board. So there was buy-in from the kids too. And I just really noticed their growth and their involvement with it. So it was something that I was excited to use again this year with even more fidelity and the opportunity to do that as well. So if you have any spare sheets.
So I just want to acknowledge the kindergarten, first and second grade team for coming out tonight and doing this showcase a little bit differently than we've done in the past. So getting the opportunity to see that continuum from what the kids are doing in kindergarten to first grade to second grade was really beneficial for us. So I really enjoyed the interactive piece and getting to see all the tactile activities that they're doing. So thank you for your commitment and dedication to this work and being here tonight. Really appreciate it.
Got a little more to share. Is that all right?
That's great. Please.
Yeah.
Make sure that's okay. Friends, if you want to stay, you can, but it might get a little dry, right? You want Thank you so much for your help.
Thank you.
Now boring adult stuff. So like I said, I'm really proud of a lot of the work that we're doing in English language arts. We have a great team. I just want to acknowledge them. So our ELA team is Kelly Steers, Katie Gillespie, Trish Washburn, Haley Moore, Yvonne McCord, who's unable to be here tonight. She was the one who kind of designed a lot of these slides, and I want to give her full credit for that. Katie Knopf, our reading intervention teacher, Cass Walsh, and then Maria is so supportive of all of these things that we're trying. So just want to say thank you for that. So we have come up with 5 goals for our English language arts this year. The first one is to develop a roadmap for a common structured literacy curriculum for basic by grade level. And so this is to develop a scope and sequence of things that will be taught at each grade level. So, and that includes like phonemic awareness, like the sounds as they were going through with the blending boards, phonics, fluency, vocabulary and comprehension. So the 5 main pillars of literacy. That I was also developing in 3rd and 4th grade into morphology, root words, and learning much more about the English language. Our second thing is to try to use more structured approaches and practices in our K2 classrooms. Some of the curriculum that we're trying is this UFLI or UFLI from the University of Florida. We debate how it should be called. I like the concept of fly when you learn the. Yeah, there you go. We're also using Geode's decodable readers. We're trying lots of different things in our classrooms, and just to try to make it a more structured approach. We are also evaluating Dibble's M-Class, which is a reading screening assessment, as a replacement for our Fontes and Pinnell benchmark assessment system. This Dibble's M-Class is used by other districts in the area. It is also, it's a screener, so it provides you with some details based on those 5 pillars of reading instruction, and then gives you an indicator of like above, at benchmark, nearing benchmark, or needs extra support. What we like about that is that it's fairly quick. It's usually a 1-minute assessment per area. So you can read with students and get through the assessments in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, depending on grade level. So it's pretty efficient. And then the information you get behind the scenes is also pretty helpful. It can provide grouping for kids in your class based on what skills they need help with. And then there's also progress monitoring. So if somebody's struggling with something, every 2 weeks, you should be checking in to make sure that your instruction is improving their performance. We are piloting that with 1 teacher in every grade level, and convening in December to kind of evaluate and see how teachers feel about that. Showing data to Maria and Cass and see what our other 2 goals. Implement usage of decodable text in K2 classrooms and make it available for 3-4 students as needed. Generally, our 3rd and 4th grade students will be moving beyond decodable text, but there's still some areas and some students that need that. In our K2 classrooms, we really wanted to have access to decodable text instead of pattern textbooks, so that we're teaching all these phonics skills, and then it was like, go read a book that doesn't really correlate with the phonics that we just taught you. Like, we want you to be able to practice what we just taught. So we're using those. I want to just show a couple of samples of these, or just give you a chance. This is one example. These are called Geodes that we are trying this year. And a lot of times, decodable text, kind of think of it like, will hop on a log that's boring and dry. But these books are pretty engaging. They still follow, they're at least 80% decodable. So that means they follow the regular sound spelling correspondence that has been taught up to that point in the scope and sequence. What's also cool is that you get to practice the phonics by reading these books, but you're also building your background knowledge as you read them. So the book about vervet monkeys, it talks about how they have alarm systems, so they can alert each other by their communication and say, oh, there's a predator coming. The library cat book is about the Library of Alexandria in Egypt and how they had cats in the library to protect the scrolls from bugs and rats. And then what's also neat is that the book that Kari has is how Library Cat was made. So it's like how the artist or illustrator used block printing techniques to then make that book. So you're building so much background knowledge as you read the books. It's been really cool. And then we've been able to use some of those activities then to do hands-on learning maker activities. So in our classroom, we did block printing. We borrowed supplies from Mrs. Libby and did that. We even tried making paper today, which was not something I recommend. But we tried that. So using these decodable texts gives students a chance to practice exactly those phonics skills that we have been teaching. So that's another, and then our fifth goal, I think, is to implement word study and morphology lessons with third and fourth grade students. And this is where Yvonne is really shining. She's partnering with teachers in third and fourth grade to bring word study programs and morphology to their social studies curriculum and science curriculum. And she's doing a great job with that. And the teachers really are enjoying that as well. Check my notes. Yes. So assessments, we talked a little bit about DIBELS, and then these are Yvonne's slides, but so we started off the year with Yvonne and Katie doing a diagnostic assessment to kind of check where students' phonics skills were. It's with the core phonics survey. And then we are also using mapped growth data from, we started with kindergarten this year, kindergarten first and second graders doing that assessment. And using that to inform our instruction. We're using it to measure comprehension and comprehension of informative and narrative texts and vocabulary. And then third and fourth grade are also going to soon do the core phonics survey just to see if there's a need for further phonics instruction in some of those classes. What does it look like? So this is some samples of the core phonics survey, and you just sit side by side with a student and ask them to read the words. There are some real words, and then there are some nonsense words, just checking to make sure that they have that sound spelling correspondence. And then it progresses from like CVC words, consonant, vowel, consonant words, to words with a consonant blend, into R-controlled vowels, and silent E and vowel teams, other patterns. And so it progresses in terms of its level of complexity. And then as our first grade team, at least, I think second grade as well, we've used this data to then build our WIN groups. So WIN groups are what I need groups. And in first grade, we analyzed this data, got together with our teams, and kind of mixed kids between classrooms to meet them where they're at. So I share students with Katie Stern, and we've had 3 groups. One group is students who are practicing CVC words and beginning decodable books. We have another group that's working on blends and digraphs and those types of words and reading stories there. And then we have a third group that's really the extension group that we're really challenging. Last week they read texts on Braille, but they read about Braille, and Louis Braille, and then they had to do a compare and contrast Venn diagram comparing the 2 stories, citing evidence from the text and putting that together. So it is really what they need, and we're meeting them where they're at based on data that is valid and reliable. Here is a short view of the roadmap for phonics. So you can see some of the skills for kindergarten. And as we're learning, we're learning tons of things like, oh, did you know there's a nasalized A sound? Your nose is actually involved in the production of ah and an. First grade scope and sequence, lots of review. Students like learning this one. We call it the floss rule, FLSZ. So if there's a short vowel sound, the consonant at the end, if it's FLS or Z, gets doubled, or you have it there twice. Digraphs, and then second grade. Sorry, that's so small, but there's some review, but then also moving on to vowels with silent E words and reading longer words, so multisyllable words. And this is what our roadmap looks like that Yvonne put together. I think it's really great. So it gives you an idea by grade level of the concepts that will be taught throughout the year. So here's our phonics, phonological awareness and fluency, structural analysis, which isn't really in TK, but I think it starts up in second grade, vocabulary, comprehension, and then the writing standards that are also covered. So this gives us a good idea of what we should be teaching throughout the year, and just helps us keep that in mind as we focus on the standards, but then also this gives us a summarized view. And Yvonne's continued steps. So continue professional development based on the science of reading. Maria's done a great job of having Christy Martinez from MCOE come in and do a learning lab on decodable text, a learning lab on multisensory instruction. 3rd and 4th grade is coming up soon, and it's going to be focused on
Phonics
for grades. And she's been great, so we've really enjoyed having her come. Continued use of piloted curricula and how to use other curricula in our classrooms and then adapting it to meet the needs of our students. And then we will start to look at the field to see what curricula may be out there, but we're not going to jump into anything yet. We still have math that we're looking at and other things too. So, but we're definitely looking at the Dipples M class as a way to get our assessments aligned. That's it.
I have a quick question. I thought the presentation was so wonderful and seeing the students and the different strategies was really nice. So thank you. I have a question about the EL students. I'm wondering are they using these new strategies in the class, and are you noticing any difference with them picking up the language quicker than previous years?
Personally, in kindergarten, yes. Just to be able, like you mentioned, that if they're still learning the alphabet and the English alphabet, it helps them to have the letter sound correspondence right there. And just kind of that tactile movement, and then as well learning where the letters are. In fact, what I said when I was using it last year, it was one of my language learning students who wanted to use this at choice time instead of playing. She loved it. She found that it just really helped her grow. So
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it to really be helpful for my students too. It's motivating, like you said, it's engaging, it helps for memory and understanding and learning. And it's actually good for everybody. So it benefits the ELs, but it benefits everybody too. So a lot of the like moving manipulatives is very helpful, but then also just like using your fingers to tap out sounds at your desk or your arms on how you tap out a sound. But so these are tools that they can take with them too to use independently when they will play.
Thank you.
I have a quick question. So if I'm remembering right, the Fountas and Pinnell, it was like a letter. Is it a letter that you had? And then the books in the classroom would be organized sort of by letter, and it would help you get like the right fit book. And so with a new assessment tool, I'm just wondering, how does that correspond? And, are we still going to be easily able to match kids with those right fit books?
That's a good question. I think that's one of the areas that we're like the most challenging thing, because it was really easy for teachers to say, hey, oh, you're a level whatever, and then here's the book that you can choose from. But the levels that were based off of those assessments were not very accurate. You could have students with a G level, and some of them might be reading at like 98% accuracy. Some might be reading at 40% accuracy. So going to get a G level book wasn't going to work for all of those kids. So we do need to look at how we can shift our classroom libraries, which are pretty awesome. But I think one of the things we're doing is starting to do bands of levels or bands. So the text complexity often applies to those levels. So instead of saying you're reading from the G level book box, okay, here's your choices, and it's maybe E through H. Like
Okay.
I think the research kind of shows, like, if you were identified as G, the error could be up to 2 levels on either side of that.
Oh, okay.
So I think providing that opportunity, it also gives a little more choice for students too. And then reading challenge text is also kind of shown to improve their reading ability. But it is harder. Like, we need to spend time in our classrooms, like reorganizing our libraries, and it can be a little chaotic too, because it was such a great way to just say, okay, these are my G books. We'll get a G book and go get ready. So,
Right. So yeah, one more thing to to
Yeah.
change and work on, but yeah, that sounds, it's great. Thank you.
Just following up on that, I was interested to hear the differences. That was one of my questions, the difference between F and P, because we've all heard that for so many years and this new thing. But it sounds like it's a little bit more like map growth in a way, if you can group people and so on and so forth. Seems like a good tool.
Yeah, so from the things I've read and the things I've listened to, the diagnostic approach should be like a screener at the top. Like you give everybody a map growth assessment. And if you're performing well on that, then you're probably fine. It's like like taking somebody's temperature, right? Okay, if you're 98, you're generally pretty good, right? And then the dibbles goes down a little bit further because map growth is just like reading.
Right.
Dibbles will look at your oral reading fluency. If your reading fluency is a little bit below, then maybe we should look at your phonics skills and your decoding skills. And if those are still an area of need, then we need to go down and look at your phonemic awareness. And so it's like a ladder as you go down to try to find where is the student's area. So that's the approach that kind of takes. It's a little more structured, or I guess, what?
I'm gonna say building blocking, and that's
Yeah,
why
building block,
we're
yeah.
focusing so much on those phonics skills, so that then when you do get to reading later in the year, or they are starting reading in first grade, they have those strong foundations to be able to take off, so we aren't necessarily playing catch up of, okay, we have a second grader who is still working on phonics skills.
Right.
PVC words.
Right. That's great. Is this the first time you guys have done map for kinder?
We did it last
We
year.
did.
Piloted
Piloted last year.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so here's the demonstration of it, it's really so high, it's smooth, so
Great.
let it go before, so especially this year where we are trying and exploring different things that are overarching every student usage of that common assessment.
Right.
So even if not everybody is being in the script of the class, that's the
Mhm.
stage, and I think we have that one too.
Great. Had you guys used core phonics surveys before? I've
We
if
have,
I've
this is
heard
our
of it.
first time doing it,
Mhm.
and so Katie Knopf and then Yvonne went and I think all of second grade and a majority of first grade, and had that data available for us to then evaluate for student needs, but also for win groups, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been so helpful that now we were in a spot checking for some third and fourth, and now we're just.
That's great. Well, from my perspective, being able to see the data and the professionalism of our teachers and their expertise and everyone else working with the students in the classroom, being able to implement all this stuff and putting it all together combined with win time, sort of pieces of a puzzle, which is really just great to see it all come together. So appreciate all your hard work. Thank you.
Yeah, this is really impressive. Thank you so much.
Super impressive. Thank you so much. The approach and the roadmap, the assessment plan, the professional development, the evidence from what the kids were doing is just completely has blown me away. So thank you all for what you're doing. It's amazing. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your leadership, Maria and Cass. Amazing.
Thank you.
Always a tough act to follow, the educational showcase. Thank you, guys. Great.
This is. The perfect one. Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much.
So moving on to our Kentfield School District reports, I'll start with a finance update. We have our first interim in December, right? So that'll be our next big update on our finances. We're remaining vigilant on all our financial things. There's of course been a lot of pressures on our budget from rising costs in a lot of places. Of course, food and TK unfunded mandates for us continues to put pressure on different parts of our budget. I'll tell you that I represent the board on the Joint Legislative Action Committee, which is we keep an eye on what's happening in Sacramento. State revenues are coming in sort of better than feared at this point. So I think that's a positive, not much of an impact on Kentfield, but it's better than the alternative. And early indications of COLA is about 2.5%. And our finance committee had their first meeting. Anyone who's interested in following the finance stuff, that's a great snapshot of our budget, sort of where things are headed. And then there's a subcommittee that looks at multi-year stuff. I'll remind this group that our parcel tax expires in 2028. So we'll be taking a real close eye and staying vigilant about that very important and existential sort of source of funding for us from our community. We'll hear more next meeting about the finances with the first interim. Moving on to the employee organizations report. We're going to hear from Kentfield Teachers Association first.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Warren Beals, president of the Kentfield Teachers Association. It's an honor and a privilege to represent child-centered, proactive, and responsive teachers, educators like we had presenting tonight, our Basic ELA team, who I should add, it's their conference week, so they're carrying an additional burden, but an amazing presentation and amazing kids. It's also an honor and a privilege to stand side by side with my longtime friend, colleague, and ally, Gretchen Harris. The Kentfield Teachers Association does not have a report for you this evening.
Thank you, Warren. And Kesmo.
Yes, good evening. I'm Gretchen Harris, and I'm the president of the Kentfield Education Support Professionals Association. We're getting close to a big holiday, so we're thankful. We have a lot to be thankful for here in the Kentfield School District. We are thankful for our beautiful, safe, clean environments for the students and for our colleagues. We are thankful for all of the talented people teaching new ideas to our learners. We are thankful because we have wonderful places outdoors to run and climb and great supervision to make sure our playtime is safe. We are thankful that we have sympathetic ears to listen to our problems. We are thankful for the nutritious food to eat with our new food program. We are thankful for our warm classrooms. We are thankful to have quiet spaces to refresh and calm busy minds. We are thankful for our 2 well-run offices with all the small details dialed in. We have these things because we have an amazing group of education support professionals. If you were to eliminate any one of those things I just mentioned, our students would suffer and their school days would be less enriched. Imagine eliminating more than 1, maybe 3 or more of those things. It's pretty hard to imagine that because the education support staff is so dedicated to the Kentfield School District that we will ensure all of these needs are still met every single day. We come to work because we are thankful for our students. We come to work every day because we are thankful for having meaningful work. We come to work every day because we are thankful for our fantastic colleagues. We come to work because we are thankful for our wonderful parent community. We come to work because we are thankful for this amazing team we have built. The education support staff is united under the common belief that our students truly deserve the best and that we are vital to delivering the very best to our students. The education support staff are often overlooked, undervalued, and even underestimated. Although the one thing we have in common is being not certificated, you won't find a more solid team of individuals. The education support staff is a vast and varied group of people who have strong ties built simply on trust. We trust one another to speak when we are unable to ourselves. We trust one another to guide us through new experiences. We trust one another to stand strong when we feel weak. We trust one another to set aside personal differences and work hard for our team. We are thankful because we have these ties built on trust. We are thankful for our Kentfield Teachers Association colleagues who consistently see us and value us as trusted partners and equal educators. We are thankful for the trust you all place on us to educate our students.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. We are going to hear from our Kentfield School District community reports, continuing with Kick.
Hello, everybody. Noah Wheeler, president of the Kentfield Schools Foundation, KIC. Kentfield Invest in Kids, many names. Let's see, most recently we just had Giving Day, November 8th, which is the day we were encouraging and just activating our community, encouraging people to donate early and before the holidays, and just spread our message of what we're doing and for the community. Really successful. Now we're about a week after that, and we're just past the 700,000 mark net for our family giving campaign, which is roughly 60,000 over the same time last year. And it's about 60% or over 60% of our $1.1 million fundraising goal for actually family giving goal for the year. Our internal goal at KIC is actually 1.2 million. Reminding you guys, we have a $1.1 million commitment, but our eye is still towards the future of hitting 1.2 this year and hopefully raising that commitment again next year and hopefully for the next few years, as we know the budget constraints on the district. So we have our eyes looking to the future. We're just going to raise as much money as possible this year. We're confident we're going to meet the commitment and hopefully some more. We just wrapped up the 9th annual crab feed, which is one of our, well, it is our most important sign-up party of the year. And big shout out to Patrick and Susie Reed, who took that on, which with a bunch of other new families. Really great events. It's great to see some younger, newer families getting involved in the community and with fundraising and with KIC. And also the Kent musical Bye Bye Birdie, which I know has been all about town recently, just wrapped up. It went very well. We had 45 students, Kent Falcons, participate across the cast and crew, and roughly 600 community members attended the 3 shows on the Friday and Saturday. We also did a preview performance at Basage and at Kent for all the students. And we hope to continue this program next year and also hopefully expand so that more students participate. I think with some earlier planning and now that we have a little more awareness, I anticipate that the participation will go up in future years. And then just looking into the next couple months, we're gonna continue to push the fundraising messaging and get in as much money as we can through the end of this calendar year before the holidays. And then early spring, we'll still be focusing. It doesn't stop. We'll still be fundraising, and then we'll shift into more of a mode of participation and really trying to increase that number. So anticipate some sort of participation challenge that'll be fun, and backing off the little messaging now that's heavy on the amount and getting our certain numbers. And then in the spring, it'll be more about just give what you can, really trying to get everybody to be involved at whatever level they can. And then after that, we'll be looking at the spring auction. So that's a little snapshot of where we're at with KIC right now.
Great. Thank you for that and all that hard work. I had heard very good reports on Bye Bye Birdie.
It was amazing.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. And all the work that you did, Noah, you and Amy behind the scenes with helping to get that gym all set, and it was a lot of steps to coordinate. So thank you for all your dedication and support there as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm already working on a parent committee for next year. It was a lot of work. so,
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, Grant was motivating too when I was in the throes of it, saying, so I'm like, I don't know how we're gonna keep this going, with how much work it is, but he's like, parents will step up, and you're right. I've already kind of reached out to the parents of the families who are involved, and a lot of people are stepping up to help. So
Yeah.
we'll keep it going.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Bill.
Great.
Thank you. And from the PTA, do we have a representative? So thank you.
Hello, everyone. I like the smaller crowd. The first crowd was a little intimidating when I walked in. Thank you for having the KSBTA here tonight. We've been quite busy planning a bunch of events coming up here in November and December. Last week, we wrapped up our grant program. We announced the awards for the recipients last Thursday. We had received over 18 different proposals and awarded just over 20,000, which was spread quite evenly across Basich and Kent proposals. We awarded grants for PE equipment, a TK insect lab visit, a music conference, many books to build and restock classroom libraries at both schools, the Kent newspaper, and partial funding for Kent's all-school read author, just to name a few. This week, there's the book fair going on at the Basich Community Center, running all the way through Friday. Most days it's open from 11:45 to 4 p.m. Because that's coinciding with Basich having the minimum days for parent-teacher conference. So it works out well that parents are already coming on campus to meet with their teachers, and then they can stop by the book fair as well. So hopefully everyone can pop in for a minute. Coming up in December, we have two really exciting events. The first one is a parent ed event featuring Katie Greer, who is an internet expert on safety, digital safety. She was here last January in the Kent Library and did a parent ed event in the evening. This year, we partnered with KIC to bring her back for the parent evening event, but also to spend an entire day with our students. So it was a bigger commitment this year. So KIC was able to partner with us and make that happen. So thank you. So we will have Katie on Monday, December 11th here in the Kent Library from 7 to 8 doing the parent ed event. And then Tuesday, December 12th, she'll be at both Basich and Kent with special assemblies, talking to students and delivering age-appropriate messages for each grade and level that she's speaking to. So we're really excited about that. And then lastly, we have our winter market coming up Wednesday, December 13th. This is kind of a new event that we've kind of created that will feature handmade items from both kids from Basich and Kent. So we're really excited about this. We received over 30 student applications to participate and sell their items from things such as jewelry, personal care, home decor, crocheted items, and packaged foods. So we'll hope that you'll stop by and show the support for our kids. And those are just some highlights on what the KSBA has been doing. So
That's great.
thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for the focus on digital citizenship. That's great to hear. Thank you. And thanks to KIC for your support of that. Okay, so moving on to the superintendent and staff reports. We have a district update from Raquel.
Yeah. Okay, so let me just get my slide deck up there. So again, just extending appreciation to both PTA or KSPTA and to KIC. That Bye Bye Birdie was fabulous. My daughter, I brought her and she was, I was sitting right next to Maria and she was very much into, she wanted to stand so she could be sure she saw everything. So thank you so much for that. And I got to pop into the book fair today. So it looks really great in there. And the grants, I know the staff are absolutely thrilled. was in communication with our business team right after they were announced saying, we got to get on it because the teachers are going to want us to purchase. So thank you so much for all of that work and dedication. And just want to name it as the month of gratitude. So I want to thank this board for all that you do on behalf of the children here in Kentfield and our families. I feel lucky to get to serve, and your leadership is something that we are really lucky to have as a school district. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I have some quick updates. These updates are really just kind of follow up on questions the board has asked over time, maybe even from our last meeting. So Michael's going to share a little bit about the quarterly investment update. There were some questions that came last time, so we have a quick slide about that. I'm going to touch on chronic absenteeism. So as you may be aware, that actually is a really hot topic right now in the education world. And we last year were identified as a school district that needed to zone in on chronic absenteeism, specifically at our elementary site. And I'm proud that our team has talked about some approaches this year. And I have some data to show. I want to provide an update on safety. We've had a variety of safety issues that have come up at the start of the school year. So I want to give you all an update on where we're at there. The mention of digital citizenship. And so that has been an ongoing interest from our parent community. I think our educators see also with our kids and their use of various devices. So feel super lucky to have this presentation that's going to happen in December, getting the parents to have the piece of education, but also that notion of having the students get the information from the presenter. I heard from one of our neighboring districts, the Larkspur School District, they had heard that we were doing this and were very, very impressed and wanted to see how they could replicate. So really exciting things happening. So Michael, if you want to touch on this next slide, it's small writing. He's just going to give you some verbal updates.
Yeah, so this is just follow up question.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So the way it works is the investment is made pursuant to government code. California government code dictates how the investment should run for all the state of California. And the county treasurer, they have their own investment policy also, and this policy has to be approved by the Board of Supervisors in the county. So since the schools in Marin County have a chunk of money in the treasurer, the Marin County Superintendent of Schools is a member of the investment committee. So she represents, or he represents, the schools. The investment is made on a very low risk profile. The portfolio includes like the federal agency issued coupon, federal agency discount, and the treasurer security. As you see, most of the money is on the federal agency discount, 62%, and the federal agency issued coupon is 35%. What's left is about 3-4%. 2.6% of it is in the treasurer's. And the rest, 2.2, is diversified on other portfolios. The return is very small. The interest we got for last fiscal year, on Q1, we got 0.05%, Q2, 0.2, and 3.25, and 4.67. For us, it all depends on how much money we have in the bank at the time. Last year, we got about 86. So bottom line, the investment is very safe. It doesn't have a lot of return, but it's great.
Great. Thanks for following up. My context was, having seen what happened to Silicon Valley Bank investing. It's not so much the investments, it's the duration, but I went through it in depth after our meeting and I feel very comfortable. So thank you for following up. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
So the next topic is around chronic absenteeism. And so just to remind folks, the definition of this is when a child is absent, excused or unexcused, for 10% of the school days in which we're enrolled. And so there's a hard number that we have that we can look at when we're looking at a full school year. And if you recall last year, we were identified as a school district. We actually didn't get identified as a distinguished school because of chronic absenteeism, specifically in our elementary school. And so we dug into that a little bit, and there were specific student groups that were identified that were areas of concern. And so it's something for us to be mindful of, and that's not uncommon, unfortunately, but it's something for us to be mindful of as we plan and think about the interventions and supports for our children. So what I wanted to share tonight is a little bit of knowing this information. How did we as a school district respond at the start of this school year? And then also reminding folks the impact of chronic absenteeism. Because ultimately when kids aren't at school, they're not learning, right? Whether it's because they're leaving for a trip or if they're out because they're ill, ultimately we want them to be at school as much as possible. So at the start of this school year was something we talked about as an administrative team, and we determined a uniform communication that we would be pushing out. At the same time, our board president, also a highlight during the back to school events was around chronic absenteeism. So just talking about the importance of kids coming to school. So we had this really uniform back to school message, and people really heard it. So there were places that we would be in, like more social environments, and folks would say, oh, I got that letter about, my child being absent. So it was good that it really stuck to folks. There's regular communication that's happening right now between the parents and caregivers when our staff are seeing patterns start to happen with our children. And so outreach happening via a template letter over Parent Square, calls are being made. So we're really trying to track and progress monitor what's happening with our students. And then not only there's the letters, there's the calls, but there's also a plan for conferences to happen with families if they're not having a response, if they're continuing to see the pattern happen. I also want to really name the difference between Basage and Kent. Basage as an elementary school, I think it's really important as a young child to really get in there right away, because there's patterns that can get set with our young children if they start to think it's okay not to come to school, and or come to school late, right? So if they're late more than 30 minutes, it can be considered an absence. So it's just important that we address that in a very formal way. And so parents understand that it is important to be, if you're enrolled in kindergarten, you need to be there. At our middle school, obviously the kids are at a different developmental stage. Oftentimes our kids are more independent, and so they're getting themselves to school. But also reminding them the importance of getting to their classes on time. So I know that's a challenge that Wendy and Grant experience and deal with up front with kids, about just noticing how many kids are showing up to classes late during the school day. They might get to school on time, but then kind of hanging out with their friends or stopping at their lockers or whatever it might be. But just to know that this team has been very, very attentive to these issues and trying to be proactive with responding to our students and our parents. Short-term impact, so reduced student achievement, social disengagement, and then feelings of alienation. So I know for myself, when my child is late to school, they don't want to go, right? Because they feel like they're going to stand out. So I think for kids, they also get that sense of like, okay, well, now I'm late and now everybody's going to stare at me when I cross the threshold of that room. So the importance of really getting there on time. But these feelings are feelings that we see on the short end. Long-term impact is there is a tie between chronic absenteeism and high school dropout rates. Adverse health effects, poverty in adulthood, and increased likelihood of being involved in the criminal justice system. So this is something that's really important that we're paying attention to as a system, and really trying to explain to our parents the importance of their children being at school. So the data, I was inspired by Maria, I will say. She had a site council meeting, and she shared with me some data she brought to that council meeting related to some issues that had come up in the previous year. One was around chronic absenteeism, the other was around behavioral infractions and such. And so at our last admin meeting, I asked her, hey, can you send that to me so I can think about how I can present this to the board as well? So Beth helped and pulled some data from Aries to look at students between the start of our school year and November, right? Like to today, right? To today, to pool exactly how many kids, depending on what is the number of days they would have been absent, to be considered chronic absentee or a chronic absenteeism situation. So the light blue line is in 2021. The dark blue line is in 2022. And then the orange line is current, 2023. So this is just a snapshot of the start of the school year. We didn't do a whole year's review, mainly because we wanted to do apples to apples. So it's really interesting data, because the 21-22 year was our first like kind of normal year back. Kids were back with masks, right? So that was the year that everybody was back, but everybody was in masks. And so the second year, so 22-23, was the year where we had a lot of illnesses, right? Because now we didn't have masks. And so that was last year, right? Yeah, last year, where there was a high level of illnesses. And so the good news here is what you're seeing a drop off. For Kent, you're seeing a little bit different, but it's not that significant. So, and then there's just the overall of the school district. So just wanted to show you the data that we're watching and continuing to progress monitor so that we can intervene as we see patterns with students.
I just have a quick question. In terms of like the reasons for the absences, like I am guilty that, last year we did some extra trips because, we were finally able to travel again. And so I'm just wondering, in the future, if we can look at, also looking at excused versus unexcused and just sort of, just keeping an eye on that. But
Yeah, and I will say, I think our sites are probably looking at that data more clearly. I wanted to give very broad overview tonight, but I'm sure that there's more specifics and not just excuses, but also looking at the student groups, like which groups are we
Right.
seeing patterns with? And it goes back to what I said before is we did see particular student groups where there were more patterns.
But I do appreciate this because we've seen the quality of our teaching that's going on in our classrooms, and we've seen it tonight. We see it all the time, right? And a day you're not at school is a day you're not at school, whether it's an illness or a family trip or a holiday or whatever. You're just not benefiting from what we're offering here. So I appreciate this perspective as well as the more granularity.
yeah, this is great. And it's nice to see those numbers going down. So.
Yeah, congrats to the team. I think this isn't luck. I think this is a result of a coordinated effort and strategy to get this down. So thank you.
Okay, school safety. So there's been some incidents at the start of the school year that I thought important to just kind of circle back and let you guys know where we're at related to some issues around safety. So the first one that I want to touch on is around suspicious persons. So there were 2 reports in the Ross Valley area where there was an identification of somebody approaching young children, asking them to get on a ride, and we pushed out communication. I will continue to push out communication when we have those incidents happen. I received feedback about just people wanting to know very specific. So any information I have, try to put it out there that I legally can. There was also a recent incident that hit the paper in a situation in the Mill Valley area, which was very concerning. And then on Halloween Day, on October 31st, there was an incident that happened with 2 of our Kent students right across the street at the College of Marin parking lot. And so, we pushed out communication quickly about it. And I did follow up on the first with our school resource officer. And they were able to work with College of Marin Police because it's outside of their jurisdiction because it was on the property of College of Marin. And College of Marin had video cameras. So the parent of those 2 children, because they're twins or siblings, the parent actually met with College of Marin Police. They were able to get still shots of the perpetrator. And separate and different, a parent forwarded me some information about somebody that fit the description that was trespassing on residential areas in our area. So I shared that with our school resource officer, and what we found is it's the same person. So there's some significant concerns related to that. And so we will, as a school district, we'll be signing off on a letter of trespassing. So if this suspect comes onto our campuses, the school resource officer or law enforcement will be contacted, and they will be immediately arrested because of the behaviors in which they're demonstrating in our community. So it just goes to show the importance of getting that communication out there, getting the information back from our community so that we can do something about it. I'm just waiting to hear back from our school resource officer so I can sign off on that paperwork, and then I'll share more information with our site-based team so that they're aware and they have a picture of the suspect. So scary situation, but the one thing I will say about that is because College of Marin had the video cameras, they were able to see the way the students responded. And they were really, really impressed with the way the students responded so quickly. And so you may have seen that one of the things that I've asked our sites to do is really to think about ways that we can get those suggestions from law enforcement into the classroom so that all children have the same message, so that they all understand how to respond in a situation that could be quite scary. So anyway, so that's kind of where we're at with that one. E-bikes and e-scooters. So we did have an incident at on the Base Edge campus where there was contact between a student and a e-scooter. And we have worked closely with law enforcement, and what they have advised of us is that we really need to stay kind of in our lane related to our role and responsibility of, what's our rule on campus? Our rule on campus is kids should not be riding, whether they're an bike scooter or if it's a manual. And we need to reinforce those rules. In terms of what's happening outside of, they will take the responsibility on, ticketing or whatever has to happen related to what's legal or not legal. And so I did have parents reach out to me with some concerns of like, why are we allowing kids to have these? And so my response has been really, we're not allowing them. The parents have given them to them when they're on campus. We're telling them, no, they cannot ride them. So we do have these signs that are going to be going up on our campuses. We've ordered them or hope to have them by the end of this week that are going to be placed all around our campuses. We're also, myself and Wendy and Cass are participating in a school law enforcement partnership meeting tomorrow where there's going to be a panel talking about ways in which our community is responding to this issue. It's not just a Kentfield issue. It's happening across our county. It's actually happening, I'm hearing about ways in which Southern California is responding to the issue. So anyways, I just wanted you to know that we're well aware of the concern out there, but also really trying to stay within our lane and what we really have control over, and continuing to work with law enforcement. Emergency release. So I want to acknowledge Cass and Wendy for the work that they've done to put together real clarity related to what happens if we have an emergency release situation. Beth has worked closely with them to get it all formatted and set up. We're working on some translation issues right now, but we do have a communication that will be going out to our community. Just the reminder to stick it on your refrigerator if there's a situation that we have to have an emergency release, that you know what to do, what to bring to the school site to pick up your child. So I just wanted folks to know that that's in process. And then the district safety committee. So I think our next meeting is December 7th. I think that's what's on calendar, but it might be adjusted. I'm not sure. And so again, this is Cass and Wendy work so closely with our community partners, which are listed here next, to really be sure that we're approaching the issues that are happening in our community related to safety and wellness of our children in a comprehensive way. And so I feel lucky that we have such great partners, and I feel lucky that we have such great leaders for our safety committee. So, yeah. And my last thing, digital citizenship. So you heard Michelle mention Katie Greer, so super excited to have her come back. And I heard the room was packed last year when she was here with our parents. But to have that opportunity to have her do a parent ed night on Monday, December 11th here, I think it's here at the Kent Library. And then on Tuesday to do, I think she's doing presentations both at Basage and Kent. I feel like there's two at each campus. So it's really, really great to have that opportunity. Special thanks to KIC and KSPTA for collaborating on that. I also want to name that Wendy and Grant have worked closely with their technology lead here, Alice Witt, to have lessons that are happening, I believe, an advisory around digital citizenship and really support our students in understanding kind of how to navigate that digital world. And then last but not least, Andrew Korf, who's not here tonight, but he has led up our technology committee and working with the team on a scope and sequence related to the use of technology, and then how does that align to digital citizenship as well. So I believe he's already met with the grade level chairs over at Basage. I'm not sure yet if he's met with the Kent team, but that's kind of on his to-do list. So just an update on where we are at with that and just keeping that on the forefront because I know it is a high interest item. With that, that's it for me, unless you have any questions.
I had a couple of questions. Anything else? On the suspicious person stuff, I know we're hearing some of this from our other districts. I suspect people's response has been largely the same. Is there anything you're learning from other districts and their response that we can adopt?
No, it's pretty much the same. And it's a protocol across the county amongst our superintendent group that we forward each other whenever we send those types of communications. And then we make the decision if we're going to push it out. Whatever we send, I can anticipate that David Rice will send it to the Ross community. So I just kind of keep that lens when we're writing things. That's
great. And on the emergency release, is there any change in the policy, or it's just really just reminding people what it is?
It's reminding people what it is. I believe the Basage is not labeling their release tag and ticket any longer, but it's very similar to the process as previous. Okay. So it's pretty much the same, but just trying to remind people and get that up on the refrigerators.
Okay. I appreciate the comment about the e-scooters, and I appreciate that you included in your communication. I appreciate us staying in our lane. I do appreciate you sharing with our community some of the rules that a lot of people I don't think realize about e-scooters. No child that does not have a driver's license in the state of California is allowed to ride an e-scooter, which I don't think a lot of people know. There are no such restrictions on e-bikes, but e-scooters, you have to be wearing a properly fitted helmet. You cannot ride it on the sidewalk. You have to ride it in the street. And you can't be less than 15 and a half years old, and you have to at least have a driver's permit. And that's not true of e-bikes, but it's true of e-scooters. So. Any other questions on this stuff?
Okay, with that said, Maria and Grant, I think you're up for slide updates.
Hi, good evening. I have pretty short update tonight. I just feel like our showcase was the star of the show tonight, and so much of what I would have spoken to, like, they did a better job. So Raquel mentioned I had a recent principal chat, and the topic was social emotional learning. And I introduced Sarah Feuderan, our new school counselor, to the parent group, some of whom knew her and some don't. You know, our students all know her, but parents don't necessarily. And she spoke about some counseling groups that have begun at Basage. So at each grade level, there are approximately 2 counseling groups. They're small groups, and students were identified through kind of teacher referral and noticings. And so each group is built around a particular skill or something that could be supportive of that group of students. So I sat in recently on a kindergarten group, and it was kind of just some basic skills. And the lesson that I observed was how do we respond when someone tells you no? So, you know, pretty straightforward, but these were 5-year-olds who had demonstrated that was challenging for them, and that their reactions to no were sometimes reacting in ways that we don't want them to. So so she was able to speak to that. We also talked about the toolbox implementation. And there was some feedback actually from the parents around resources that parents could use at home to reinforce a little bit more than what has been shared out. So we're putting together a list of book titles that picture books that we got from the Toolbox Project. So we're going to be able to share out that list and even think about ways of making sure we have all of those titles in our school library, that parents could check them out. And the books are connected specifically to a different one of the 12 tools. So we're working on that. We shared some behavior data and as well as our the chronic absenteeism data, showing that we're going in the right direction. Our behavior management comparison last year to date and this year to date is also showing a decrease. One tool that we've implemented this year is a tool that we can use in areas that's information only. So it's doesn't rise to the level of a behavior management card or a suspension. Probably not even something that we have called a parent about, but something we want to kind of keep track of. And so that if we start seeing patterns with particular students, that we can connect them to a counseling group before it gets to the level of behavior management cards. So far, things are looking like we're going in a good direction. So the attendance monitoring, Raquel spoke to a little bit, but just to say that, we really are sending out letters regularly and having conversations with people around tardies and absences. I, kind of have a list sometimes of just in case I see parents, just to have that kind of connection with them. I grabbed a grandfather recently, and he was like, okay, I'm going to have a talk with my daughter, who is the mother of the child who's always late. And this little second grader has not been late since. So just having those, connections and just having the awareness, I think that's been really helpful for me. I kind of know who I'm looking for out in the community, because sometimes having an official meeting with me at a particular time feels a little bit more formal. And so being able to just catch people and have those conversations is also another way to support better attendance. Conferences are happening this week, as you know, so our campus is really busy with parents and guardians coming and going, which I always really enjoy seeing. And, you know, Cass and I support sometimes some conferences that might be a little tricky or challenging or hard messages to deliver. I sat in on one today. It went really well, but, you know, we're just available to teachers for that as well. And Yvette is supporting conferences with translation services in Spanish. And then she also coordinated with the language people for a few conferences in Portuguese and other languages. So our trimester 1 is coming to an end shortly after we get back from the Thanksgiving break. And so our report card writing window has officially opened for teachers to begin report card writing. It's kind of a long report card writing window because of the Thanksgiving break in the middle of it. So it feels like we're giving teachers a really long time to write report cards, but a week of that, they actually are not, we're not in session. So report cards are to be completed by teachers on the 6th of December, and then they'll be available to parents on the 8th in Aries. And we've just also aligned our IEP goal reports with that same timeline. So students who have IEPs get a report card from the general education teacher. They also get an update on their IEP goals from the Learning Center teachers. So we've aligned those dates, which was a brilliant idea from one of our new Learning Center teachers. In classrooms this time of year with conferences, it's kind of started last week and you see some of it this week as well. Students engaging in activities where they're reflecting on their trimester 1 learnings and experiences and setting goals and identifying areas of strength and challenge. So even our little TKers having one-on-one like meetings with the TK teachers and talking about what they like about TK and what's hard for them about TK. So being able to, you know, have the students really think about their learning as well as part of this whole time of year with conferences and report cards. We've had some fun student activities happening this week. So you might have seen in the newsletter that we have a spelling bee happening at morning recess. You know, we weren't sure what the interest was going to be. It's packed. It's super fun. And some kids are showing up, you know, 2 days in a row, and everybody who participates gets a prize. It's really kind of low stress where a word is said and they write the word on a whiteboard and they hold the whiteboard up, and then even if they get it wrong, that's when they get their prize, but then they can keep participating in the other words. So, and if you're still kind of, if you haven't gotten anything wrong by the end of the recess, then you get 2 prizes. So a little bit of a reward for good spelling, but it's really neat to see, especially in the context of all of our decoding lessons and phonics, that, you know, to see kids be able to put that to use in a fun, slightly competitive, but fun way. So that's every day this week. And then also the book fair. So each class was able to visit the book fair and do some browsing. But the part that I like most about the classroom visits is they hear, they sit and they listen to book talks by the Books Inc. staff. And so they get to hear little snippets about books that might pique their interest. And then they can do their browsing, and there's a nice big table for donations to the library. So a lot of the titles are then available to all our students through our Basich library, even if they don't purchase them at the book fair. I just wanted to highlight some social justice things that are happening. This is just a busy month in November for social justice. So it's officially Native American Heritage Month. We had Dia de los Muertos and Veterans Day, Diwali, which was just yesterday. So these are things that the Social Justice Committee pulls together resources, slide decks, books, videos, different things that teachers can use in the classroom to teach and acknowledge these different celebrations and from different heritages and cultures. And so it's really neat to see when you go through classrooms, you see different read alouds and different projects based on some of these these events. And then we're starting to see, as we head into Thanksgiving, we're starting to see lessons on Thanksgiving. They look a lot different than the lessons that, that I had when I was a kid. There's a lot of emphasis on the Native American perspective. And I was in a second grade class today, and they were telling me, it's a lot more complicated than some of the picture books, tell us. And I mean, these are second graders, 7 years old. And so it's just really neat to see them engaging in those kinds of activities. It's a busy time for teachers with conferences and report cards, but it's nice that we have next week to kind of take off and decompress before we head into the official report card writing. There's not a lot of report card writing that happens this week because of conferences. So next week. And that's really it that I had to share, but happy to take any questions or comments.
And a couple of things. I appreciate that you're tracking observations in the behavior management stuff. I think that's really great to watch for those patterns. On the conferences, do you have a early read on participation rates, how that's going?
Yeah, so our intake conference rate was really great. And I think, we've established a culture now with teachers really not giving up on people that didn't sign up electronically, to reaching out by phone call, parent square messages. So for the most part, we have really high sign up rate. You occasionally have some no shows. So typically my practice is after the conference week, I send out a document to teachers for them to indicate how many students in their class didn't have a conference, and then kind of a next steps, and we continue to reach out to them. So, our goal is obviously 100% participation, and so I can report on that next time to see if we met that goal. But we have strong signups.
That's great. And I do really appreciate the alignment of the IEPs with the report cards. I think that's really great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Appreciate that.
yeah, thanks.
I had a quick question.
Oh yeah.
The math test that we did or the students did earlier in the fall,
Yes.
when are those results going to be published to the parents?
Yeah, that's like in process right now. So what we decided to do was to Jim and/or Andrew have a piece in generating those reports, and then they send them to Aries, and Aries has something to do with them, and then all of a sudden they show up in Aries. And that the process between what Jim, Andrew do and Aries is about a week. We were a little delayed. I was hoping that they would be available prior to now, but we wanted to wait until every student. So we finished all of our makeups because it's a real imposition for Jim and Andrew to go through the process multiple times. So we're just waiting we waited until we got everybody. So, so that's in process now. So I'm hoping that, and you never know with holidays and whatnot, but I'm hoping that we're in that week period now. So within a week is my hope that those will be available. Teachers have the data and the information. So it is going to be part of conversations and conferences. It's just that the parent report is not in Aries yet, but teachers have access actually to the parent report. And so they're using that as talking points and sharing that information with parents in conferences. Great. And we're looking at data, the map growth data too, now that everyone's done, really pulling out all the students who scored in the low or low average, and really naming them by name, by grade level, and then thinking about what interventions we're connecting them to, and both in the classroom interventions or outside of the classroom interventions. And then we're going to really look at them and hope that our goal for them is the high growth. Remember, so the map growth has those different quadrants. So even if they stay low achieving, but they're demonstrating high growth, then they're moving in the direction that we want. So we've collated that information, and we know who those students are. And yeah.
It's a lot of data.
Yeah. A lot.
I bet. Yeah.
It is, but it's really helpful data. I mean, it really is helpful. So there's just lots of different ways you can look at it. Right now, I'm just looking at it by grade level and student, so I know, for example, that there are five kindergartners who scored in the low, which is a really small number of kindergartners. And just one kindergartner, I think, was in low average. So there's 6 kids in kindergarten that I really want to, focus on and make sure we're connecting them to additional support and then tracking their growth. And then, there's another way of looking at it in terms of demographically. We haven't quite manipulated it that way yet, but we will. But we have a column for if they're an EL student, a column for if they have an IEP, and those kinds of things. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, good evening, everybody. You'll have to excuse, I have a little frog in my throat still from a cold that I'm getting over. But I will do my best to present to you what's happening at Kent, hopefully without too many coughs or I would like to start by just really appreciating our experience with Bye Bye Birdie. It was a fantastic show, and it really just illustrates what a dynamic school community that we have, that we're able to take this MP room where we're serving lunch every day out of the cafeteria, and through a partnership with KIC and leaders like Noah, who I do just have to say was highly involved. Although I've already heard good rumblings about the parent committee coming together next year. But to transform that MP room into this theater that showcased our students and the incredible talents they have in acting and singing and dancing. And I will just give one brief example. One of our 8th graders who had never been a part of a musical before, father encouraged him to try out, and he was cast in the lead. And he's got 110 lines or something like that. He's just and he just absolutely shined on stage. And I could say that about each and every one of the students that participated. I just, after the final showing and then the days that followed at school, I just had so much fun walking up to students and just congratulating them on what they had accomplished. And it really was something. There is a recording out there. I don't know how widely that's been shared, Noah, the Vimeo recording.
Yeah, to find out if we can share it with everybody. The parents got access to it. So there is a professional recording.
Yes. I shared with some teachers because I figured within that community that's okay. I'm just wondering if any board members are interested in seeing if you haven't seen it.
I would. I think I had the same cold that you have now, and I was down for like 8 or 9 days. It was, and so I wasn't able to go. So I would really love to see the recording if you don't mind sharing that.
Yeah, I'm sure that we can find a way to do that.
Okay, thanks.
For all the work that we do and all the data that we're discussing and the attendance and the incredible progress with reading instruction at Basich and just the work that I'm so exceedingly proud of our kids here. It just don't want to overlook these experiences that help kids shine. And when they get to be on stage in that way and appreciated in that way, some kids show up in the classroom in a different way. And I just so appreciate that our district is really committed to continuing this, and KIC is committed to continuing as well. I've already had a number of kids ask about the spring musical.
Noah.
We also have, there's a 6th grader that's been emailing me about a play that she wrote that she wants to put on.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Really inviting people to find, expression through the arts, and it's just really incredible. So thank you so much for that, Noah, and to everybody who's donated to KIC and everybody who has supported it in all the different ways. And I thought it might just be interesting to mention, as I was out on campus today, in classrooms across our campus, I had the chance to check in with all of our PE classes as well. And we have kids playing rugby on the field and volleyball in the gymnasium and pickleball on the back 50. And just last week, we had Safe Routes to School here with our 6th graders doing the bicycle training. It's kind of the middle school version of the bike rodeo from Basich. That happens through sixth grade PE class. I mean, even just those experiences as well. PE teacher was complimenting my son on some rugby dive that he did. And, and I thought that is just so cool to get exposure to these different kind of sports, to be doing it as a part of a school day, to have a big trailer of bikes come on campus so that any child could use a bike. They knew it was a safe bike, and then get training in kind of rules of the road, pedestrian expectations, bike expectations. As I was watching our sixth graders go through that, I was thinking a lot about the e-bike and e-scooter topic, which has been a real important topic for us here at Kent and any community that out in the community, as we see kids riding in ways that are really unsafe. And so I was watching so closely our sixth graders take the instruction that they received really quite seriously, and how to pause, how to yield, how to look both ways. And I was just imagining them on some of these, vehicles, and thinking I'm really thankful that they're getting some instruction from adults that care about how to navigate in their community. And if it's not happening at home, it's happening here at school. And so I just never cease to be amazed by just the well-rounded and balanced approach that we have in this school district. And I really do appreciate it so much, and never take it for granted. Just today, we welcomed the Redwood Band with their new band director. His name is Chip Boaz. They came to Kent and performed for about an hour in our gymnasium this morning. It was an exceptional show. We had many Kent Falcons coming back to perform for us. This is a concert that had traditionally been later in the year. We really intentionally scheduled it earlier because we'd like for our Kent musicians to be able to see what options exist for them as they go into the high school years. And so we want our younger students and our 7th and 8th graders to commit to staying with an instrument, to see that there's some really exceptional opportunities for students in the high school. And there was the concert band, the symphonic band. I really enjoyed some of those jazz bands that were playing. There were 3 vocalists that sung to this one incredible jazz tune, and they were just knock your socks off, incredible singers. 2 of them were former Kent Falcons, and one of them was another student. I don't believe that she went to Kent, but just last week she was on campus. Her name is Allie. She struggles with Tourette syndrome, and she came and presented to a few of our classes about some of her challenges with that diagnosis. And then just a few days later, here she is, belting out this incredible jazz tune in front of kids. And I don't know if you noticed, Wendy, there were kids that were saying, "We love you, Al." Like, I was like, oh, those were those kids that were in that class. But just a wonderful example of just the kind of experiences that students in our community have. Here's a student that felt really empowered to share about a diagnosis that she's struggling with. And then just a few days later, singing in front of 600 people and doing an incredible job and being appreciated by the kids. And it's just a really incredible holistic approach to education and citizenship within a community. So massive appreciation to the Redwood Band. I thought they did an incredible job today, and it's so fun to see our students come back with us. I would just touch on the attendance letter piece and the chronic absenteeism. Really interesting to look at the data. Congratulations to Basich for that really noticeable shift between the last 2 years and this year. Really pleased to see that Kent's data was also an improvement from last year. There was a comment about tardies. It's possible for a Kent student to be tardy 6 times in a day. Believe it or not, there are some of our
I might have one. I don't know.
and at the middle school, tardies, it's just different. At Basich, you can be tardy 1 time a day, but every time a student is tardy to class, they miss that kind of grounding, welcoming from a teacher to set the stage for learning for a day. And so we've been sending letters home around period tardies. And while I don't have the specific data to share with you, I have noticed a significant improvement, especially in our 7th and 8th graders, which are the classes that I get to work most closely with. Because the letter is sent home after a student receives 5 tardies, and another letter is sent home after a student receives 10 tardies. And I've had a number of students talk with me about those letters. And okay, so what do I need to do to avoid the next one? And that's exactly what I want to hear you say. And it's simple, just get to class on time. And so that's important. And it's, it's minutes here and it's minutes there, but it adds up. And it adds up when we look at the kind of learning and teaching that's happening in our classes. So I'm really thankful that we have that strategy, which is so simple in nature and yet so impactful. And it also really just exemplifies how important that home to school connection is. That as a family, you want to know if your child's tardy. And if you're not regularly checking in on Aries and monitoring attendance patterns, that's not something that you would know unless the school notified you. And having that kind of systemic approach, Jody Gusky, our attendance clerk, really puts a lot of effort into making sure that those go out in a timely manner, and it means something and it's working. So I appreciate that we're working as a district around that, using really common language and a common approach. So coming up very soon, we have our all school read at Kent, and I actually have for each of you a very copy of Evan Wolkenstein.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to read this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just got off the phone with
Nice.
Evan today with a great conversation. We come back after the Thanksgiving break, and we will run a special schedule for 2 weeks where we pause after recess each day, and advisory groups come together to experience the book with their advisory teacher. At the conclusion of those 10 days of reading, we welcome Mr. Wolkenstein on campus to do 2 student assemblies. He approaches these very differently than just a simple author's visit. In fact, we were trying to get a line of time to get on the phone with each other, and we ended up being able to talk today. And his most recent email was, "You better get on the phone because you got to get working on this, Grant." I've got to get working on this. The focus of his presentation is around the power of storytelling, because the story in the book is actually it's the main character's named Will, but it's based on Evan. And when he was in middle school with a facial deformity and the way that he was treated by some of his peers. Will in the story is preparing for his bar mitzvah, and through a service project works with an older child who has a terminal illness, and Will acts out this other student's kind of bucket list of activities that he can no longer do because of illness, and then reports back to his friend about what it felt like, and through that experience gains confidence to navigate the own challenges that he's experiencing. So what Evan would like to do with our student presentations is to really emphasize the power of storytelling, and having some members of community tell a story of something that they've overcome, and having him kind of interact with storytellers to kind of bring their story to life, help their peers connect with these students and a staff member, and ultimately connect with each other just around the notion that middle school is a hard time. Everybody's overcoming adversity in some way, shape, or form. And many of the people around us have incredible stories to tell. And so I'm just really excited for him to come and visit. There will be a parent component that we'll have, as well as the 2 student assemblies. The all school read is something that we've done now 6 years in a row. It's an opportunity to have a shared conversation around some important themes for middle school. And then just emphasize how important it is sometimes to stop what you're doing and read an incredible book and talk about it. Welcoming Mr. Wolkenstein on campus is a wonderful opportunity to personalize somebody who's written a great book. We have another author who's coming on campus tomorrow, actually, in this exact same space. This author's name is Kayosh Monsef, who's written a book for young adult readers that's on the New York Times bestseller list that's called Once There Was. It's in honor of the Basic Book Fair. But it's also incredibly timely because as I'm walking through English classes, I'm also noting that a number of our grade levels are doing author study book clubs right now, where they're reading multiple books by the same author to try to kind of get to know these people, understand the themes and the author's craft that can be unique to an author. And so it's wonderful that we're going to have real authors come on campus, hopefully to motivate our students and just see that writing is something that people can choose to do with their lives, whether they become a published author that speaks at books or speaks at schools rather, or whether they're just somebody that writes for a hobby or writes to communicate ideas. This is an incredible life skill that we really want to celebrate and appreciate. And the all school read gives us a chance to do that. during that all school read week, the second one, believe it or not, Dr. Watson comes back for the second SLAM seminar. We are increasing membership each week that passes with students that are coming to SLAM. You may recall at the last board meeting, I talked about a club fair that we were going to be having at Kent. We had a club fair on October 27th. It was super lively and fun. Music was playing. Kids were super excited and publicizing their club. Dungeons and Dragon Club definitely got the award for most enthused. But there were many students that stopped by the SLAM table and signed up and said, I want to see what this is all about. And then they came the next week and it was the biggest room that we had. And then they came last week and it was even more kids. So it's really incredible to see students investing in just that culture of wanting to know how to be an anti-racist, how to learn what that means to be an anti-racist. And what I'm really reflecting about is that as we've been on this journey and we've had social justice lessons and as we've had SLAM meetings, and this has just become a part of the way that we do school here, the climate and culture here has changed and it's shifted over time. And that just really happens through that kind of intentional student-led work. And so all of these pieces that we're touching on, from, you know, the rugby to the all school read to the SLAM to the play, I really hope that each one of the Kent Falcons that are here see themselves reflected in something that's happening here at school. And if they don't, that eventually they find voice to say what they'd like to see that might help them feel reflected here at school. So I'll conclude with just an observation that ties a little bit of this together. I had the opportunity to attend a middle school principal network meeting at the county office this morning. You may or may not be aware there's networks that the county office runs that tries to connect people in similar jobs to have a professional network in a community that has such small school districts. In my previous role as an elementary school principal, I was one of 12 elementary schools in a district. And we would have a meeting each month where you could work with the other 11 elementary school principals. And that was incredible. We have a really close-knit administrative team here, but we're all actually in separate roles. And while we can benefit from each other's expertise and have that kind of alignment, it is really helpful to meet with other middle school principals to see what's happening across the county. And I'll mention that the two areas that we really focused on today was responding to hate speech and racialized language that's showing up in schools, and how to build kind of a culture of students that won't stand for that kind of language used at their schools. And the second piece we focused on was standards-based grading and feedback. And as I was contributing to these conversations, I was so appreciative that these are two areas that we have been doing a lot of work around, and I believe have made some really great progress. And so it's wonderful to be a part of a professional network that's working on a lot of the same things, that our challenges here at Kent are not unique to Kent, but that many of the approaches that we're taking to remedy those challenges can actually be something that other schools can learn from, just like I can learn from some of the approaches that are happening at many other schools that we're working with. And so standards-based feedback and grading is something that we've talked a lot about at each board meeting and likely will continue to. It's really interesting to see that across this county, middle schools are in different phases of implementation, but without exception, each school is moving in that direction and looking to benefit from the expertise of others about what has worked and what areas we may approach in a way that would be more unique to the students in our school. So the trimester is ending November 30th, which means we will be providing the first concrete summative feedback about how students have progressed in the standards that have been focused on in the classes they've had this trimester. And we're looking forward to supporting teachers and providing that feedback and making it as clear and visible as we can for students and parents. So I will go ahead and stop there and see if there's any questions that the board might have.
Just an observation and a question. Thank you for this. This is my 6th all school read book.
All right, you can have a
And when is
shelf on
the
bookshelf there.
when is the author visit? What
It
day?
is Friday, December 8th.
Great, thank you. And I appreciate you putting together the pieces of the puzzle of these different things that kids are doing on campus. And we've talked over time about the sort of profile of the Kent 8th grade graduate and sort of how that ties into our feeder schools and stuff. And I can sort of see the beginnings of some of that conversation and what we're talking about, from digital citizenship to all these other things that we're doing. So I look forward to hearing more about that and how that's all coming together.
Thank you. That's a really great connection to make.
I just wanted to say, the all school reads have been so impactful for, my kid and my family. And, it's something that's like a topic of conversation at home. And, I'm really excited to read this. And are we allowed to come on the 8th? My question.
Yes, and there will be an opportunity for parents to actually come and meet Mr. Wolkenstein. We'll have a gathering beforehand, and then ideally we'll be able to transition like last time into the first presentation.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
For the standards-based grading, since we're in the second year, are you getting like real anonymous feedback from the students about how they think it's going? Because I'm just kind of curious, the students' perspective on things.
So it's interesting, anonymous feedback. I would say we're looking at ways of having feedback loops for students that may or may not be anonymous in nature. Students talk a lot about how they experience this, and so like any initiative, there's going to be people across really across the spectrum of the experience. I think it still presents some challenges for some of our older kids that were accustomed to receiving grades in a previous system. Although more and more we're hearing kids talking about how to stretch for the exceeding or what it means to achieve an approaching. So it's becoming a part of the vernacular of the school in a way that feels very natural when kids talk about their performance in class. There were some students that were highly motivated by grades that are trying to find the motivation within this structure. So I don't have an answer to say, a certain percentage says this and a certain percentage says that. But it is definitely something that we're wanting to get feedback from students on.
Great, thank you.
Grant, I was at the last night of Bye Bye Birdie, and great show. But what really caught my eyes, I stayed a little bit after, and the kids were still on stage, kind of enjoying the moment. And what I noticed was just the friendships. I think, and it seemed like new friendships because they all knew each other. They're all celebrating. They had just went through this like a ton of work, right? There's a ton of work to do this. They, did it for many days, and it was the end. And you could just see that pride and that they'll remember this for the rest of their lives. And it was pretty awesome to see. So
I'm so glad you got to see that. And I remember that moment too, where they were posing for, the group picture where there's, 75 phones out taking pictures, and they just, without prompting by any adults, break into song again. It's like they just never didn't want it to end.
Yeah.
And I can understand why. It was pretty incredible.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grant.
Thank you, feel better.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go through our consent items, and then we have a board break, and then we have a discussion action agenda that addresses a number of policy things. So on items under K, we have 4 items there. Looking for a motion to approve the consent items under K.
So moved.
Trustee Joseph, looking for a second.
Yes.
Trustee Irwin, any discussion? No changes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda items are accepted as presented. Should we do a quick board break and then do our policy stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so 5 minutes.
Too.
please. Okay, we are coming back into session and talking about the discussion action agenda. Item M1, we'll be going through a series of policies here. So looking for a motion to consider item M1A, review board policy 041.
These are just, so there's no action that's needed. to
Oh,
take
okay,
tonight.
okay.
This is a.
So
first
this is
read.
just discussion.
Yeah,
So we don't call out each one? Oh, great, okay.
no, we'll just go one by one.
So non-discrimination in district programs and activities first.
So I'll just give a little bit of context. So the policy committee met maybe a week ago or so. We went over, there's a new law that came into play. And so there are a number of policies that need to be updated. When Beth and I were looking at this preliminarily, I said I wanted to start with the operations policies first, and then we would look at the instructional policies
Okay.
that need to have some added language. And I want to review that with our administrative team first, so everybody's kind of looped in. So the policies in front of you, I believe there's 7 of them. And there's board policies, administrative regulations, and some exhibits. And they're all related to a new law that is addressing prohibiting a district from discrimination, harassment, and bullying behaviors that would be called out if we say, you know, we can't have this particular curriculum or book or program because of a protected class. So there's specific language that CSBA provided us, California School Boards Association, to integrate into the policies that we already have, and then additional little language changes that you'll see that are highlighted. Again, Beth coordinated all this, and it's color coded, color coded, very clear, but that's kind of the overarching issue here.
So the idea is not having policies or procedures or approaches that would invite or create the environment in which this harassment or discrimination or bullying or behaviors.
Yeah, and it's specifically saying that the board can't take any action or administration superintendent or designee to prohibit activities around a protected class that would be considered discriminatory.
Well, I think we've seen some other school boards banning books, LGBTQ books, or some of those actions. So this is specifically stating that this is
exactly
right.
Okay.
Just one question. The first paragraph on this, it kind of mentions a bunch of things, but then we refer to like the education code. Will those ever get out of sync? We'll have to keep those in sync all the time. Is the goal to keep our policy consistent with CSA, and should we just refer to that versus kind of replicating up here, or is that okay?
Language that's in there is the CSBA language.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're
Okay.
making our policy match the CSBA.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Got it. So this is just the additions would get us back into alignment with exactly their line. Okay.
So ed code can be adjusted on an annual basis, and these policy updates come out typically on a quarterly basis. If there was a special update that came out in October, I believe, and it's because of this particular law. So what you can anticipate is anything that's in here, if we're following CSBA, then the ed codes have all been updated and all the language specifically from that organization. So these are before you to review. The first one, we can just kind of go, you want to just go through each one?
Please.
So the first one is related to the board policy, non-discrimination, district programs and activities, first reading. So it's really clear that language, and it's like the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph down, or third and 4th paragraph down. That's the main language. And then after that, what you'll see is just minor edits or some changing of order of language in this policy. So there's not a significant change other than adding the language from the new law. So that's the first one. The second is Administrative Regulation 1312.3, Uniform Complaint Procedures. And this too did the same thing, added the language. You'll see that in that number 10 below. And then it adjusted some language based on some like new ways in which we were saying things. So for example, instead of saying homeless students, saying students experiencing homelessness, etc. And then you'll see as you continue to read through this, there's updates on spelling words out and such. So, and then taking out specific areas. So number 19, you'll note, the school safety plans was pulled out as something that could not be a uniform complaint filing. The next policy is Administrative Regulation 1312.3, Uniform Complaint Procedures. And so the regulation is really telling the procedures that you would implement based on that policy. So this here, there's not a whole lot of changes here other than I think spelling out administrative regulation and then some of the language added that is updated to that code. And then Regulation 1312.4, Williams Uniform Complaint Procedures. This is a administrative regulation. This is quite interesting. If you look at 2B and below, it speaks to credentialing related to language learners and assigning a teacher to a class that has one or more English learner. Before it was a percent to 20%. And just to note, here in California, this happened, I would say probably 20 years ago, there was a requirement for your credential to have what's called a CLAD, a California Language Acquisition Design Permit. Anytime people are getting their credentials, they're automatically required to have specific instruction and learnings around how to support language learners. So that's not uncommon for us. If we have a teacher that's out of state, that typically is something that would come forward that we need to work with them on being sure that they got that permit or that certification. You'll see the language that's changed under filing a complaint on the second page. Again, adding the language from those other policies. The next policy to look at is actually an exhibit. And what's interesting about this is something new for us. There's exhibit 1 and there's exhibit 2. So they're back to back. The first one is really an exhibit and it's a standalone item really talking about the rights around Williams Uniform Complaint Procedures. So the rights of the parent, the rights of the staff, student, teacher. So what they can do. Exhibit 1312.4E2 is around the form that you submit. Sorry, that was me on the microphone. It's the form that you complete if you're going to be filing a complaint.
Got it.
And then the last policy is 5145.3, non-discrimination harassment. And this one has additional changes. You'll note in those first 3 paragraphs, there's a green at the top, and then this third paragraph is red and it has a strike through in it. That's just basically moving language around. So it's not omitting something, it's moving it around. And then you'll see the added language there in the bottom half of the page. So those are all before you for review. And if there's any suggested additional feedback or questions about them, now's the time to bring that forward.
And your recommendation would be?
This is pretty standard.
Right.
And so I would, we'll obviously have the second reading and consideration for approval at the December board meeting. And I would recommend the board approve as presented, accepting the changes by the California School Boards Association in alignment with Education Code.
Can I throw a hypothetical scenario out here?
Sure.
Just because I'm watching it in college campuses, what's going on in college campus, right? And with the whole Middle East conflict right now, like what would, if that happened here, like what would that like, how would that, I guess I'm trying to envision how we would handle that situation.
Related to how we as a school district respond to
Yes.
that activity that's happening in the Middle East.
Yeah.
The activity and speech that was taking place.
Yes.
Activity and speech taking place on our campus.
On our campus.
That
Yeah.
we might have policies or procedures that might be around. Not so much
Or books that we
reporting
might
with,
provide
or
students.
books or materials.
This last one's about like activities,
Mhm.
right? So that's why I think this one's this feels like, okay, this maybe would
Fit into that.
fit into that. Maybe, I don't know. I was just wondering what would we do if that was happening in our campus. I don't have the answer. I just this
5145.3 non-discrimination.
51, yes.
Harassment one.
Yeah. And maybe this isn't exactly right, but I was just trying to take a real world scenario and just trying to figure out what would happen. And just context on, I mean,
Yeah.
have you have context on what's going on in the college, like what's been happening in college campuses across the country?
No, what comes to mind for me when bringing up this topic is what's going on in the K-12 system, specifically boards that are doing resolutions right now. So I'm not as familiar with the issue that you're bringing forward. So I'm a little out of context, unfortunately.
Okay.
Just looking quickly at the first paragraph here, I think this is a continuation of existing policies about acts or things that are creating a hostile environment, whether those happen on campus or off campus. So that is that's part of our policies and procedures already, where we would have a role to play in anything that was creating a hostile environment at school.
So just, so we've had, I will say in general, I know within this county, there's been incidences that would be considered harassment or discriminatory on public school campuses.
Right.
And school districts should be responding in some way to how are we being sure that our environments are safe and welcoming for all children? And they respond in many ways. So for the board, what you have is just confirming that we want to be sure that we have a setting in which all children feel safe and welcome and that there are not discriminatory or harassing acts. If those take place, then it goes into operations and what's happening at the school. So our site would make a determination on here's some actions that we would do if X happened here. And there have been things that I think here in Kentfield, there was like, we're going to drop everything. We're going to have specific lessons around X because something transpired. I know recently in one of our local school districts, they did dropped everything and said, we're going to have a lesson around specific language that's been utilized and you can't do that. Right. And it happened off of the school campus. So if that's what you're asking, then yes, right. That's really us as an educational team being responsive to the situation and in real time saying we need to stop everything and do something.
Got it. Okay.
Is that answering your
Yeah.
question?
Okay, so that takes us through any other discussion or questions on that? Okay, so that takes us through everything here.
So we have
one action item.
We have an MOU for the board to.
H.
All the way at the bottom.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Little h. Okay,
Yep.
yeah.
Literally.
Consider the approval of the California Partnership for Achieving Student Success, CalPAS, member institution MOU. And this is in your packets. Looking for a motion to consider this approval.
So moved.
Trustee Irwin looking for a second.
Second.
Trustee Joseph. Discussion?
So just to remind people, we were contacted by the Marin County Office of Education to participate in a collaboration around a grant for career technical education. And so we would get a one-time budget of $10,000 to support materials and supplies for career technical education. This is an MOU that they've asked that we would sign and move back to them. And it really is giving us the opportunity to provide them data related to any of our students that are participating in CT-like classes.
Okay.
So it's part of the grant. We've reviewed it. We've reviewed it with our technology team as well. And it's pretty standard.
And staff recommends approval as presented.
Yes, they do.
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The MOU is accepted as presented. Moving on to governance board meeting highlights.
And then as usual, the showcase.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenal.
Spectacular, you guys.
It was super well done,
It
but I
was.
think that also the content of what was conveyed was really the encapsulation of a lot of things that we've worked on for years
That's
as a
right,
board
that's right.
and as an administration.
Yeah.
You know, being responsive to data, being creative and forward-looking with classroom practices. And, you know, we talk a lot about the various things that we try to do, attract and retain and meet every learner and all this stuff. And just so much of that was included in this presentation. And, you know, there are a number of presentations per year that really show you how many pieces of the puzzle are fitting together. And that this, for me, was one of them.
I mean, I thought it was really phenomenal. I mean, I've seen a lot of showcases and that to me was one of the top.
Very impactful. Yeah.
And it felt super authentic. And so not that the others don't, there was just something really special about it. And so I also think it was a different approach to our showcases because we had multiple grade levels represented. But for the board to be able to have that update related to how our instructional team are approaching this notion of science reading. I mean, they're like, they were like, educational doctors out there. You know what I mean? Like just the way they were talking, and when Michael was talking about the assessments that they're doing and why they're doing those assessments. And this, I will say, really came from them. And so there's real ownership there. It's just really, really exciting to see that come. And I think about some of the emails that I got from parents over the time that I've been here related to the notion of science reading when that podcast came out a couple of years ago. And I kind of want to send them this recording and say, listen, you
Right.
Because I don't know. I just felt like that was really, really good.
Yeah, I agree.
It was excellent.
It was great.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love if Maria, like this can be really broadcasted out to all the parents, because I feel like 99% have no clue what's going on and the changes that the teachers are making.
Just be a principal.
Yeah,
maybe
right,
principal
like a
chat or
future
something.
principal chat.
Yeah, no,
And it was highlighted in the newsletter. I
Yeah, I
saw
thought she did a
that.
great job
Yeah, she
highlighting
did. But I still feel like parents don't know what's going on in terms of this.
Yeah. Well, they do have this opportunity. I guess they're piloting that one metric that they were using. The
M-class.
the replacement for F and B.
That's right.
And she was looking to approve that or whatever, assess that in
Yep.
December. I wonder if that might be a spur for a first quarter or something. Showcase. I'm a principal discussion about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I also saw this, the topic we just talked about with the showcase, but also saw this with the chronic absenteeism, just organization, teamwork, coordination,
Follow through.
communication, all happening it's all getting aligned and just executing. We're turning into a group that can really execute what we say we're going to go do. And so, I felt that for a couple of these board meetings, like this today was like, okay, like we're starting to hit our stride.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It feels
And
good.
thanks to great administration, great people in the classroom, great teachers, great paras in the classroom, great support staff everywhere. Just being able to function on those higher value add parts of the mission. It's amazing. I mean,
And how
talk about high
quickly-
functioning. Did we talk about anything tonight
quickly
that
our
wasn't
district
about
reacted,
student achievement?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
exactly. Quick reaction, right?
Yes.
This is something that
This happened fast, right? So
it was really
It's
cool.
very
tangible.
impressive.
Very, very tangible. What
It
you
is.
saw.
Mhm.
So it's just, I don't know, it's really exciting.
We heard a lot from Maria about and from Grant about the multiple different ways that students are participating on campus, and that's
Right.
always something that the Bye Bye Birdie thing I think probably should be addressed. The upcoming author visits and digital citizenship visit stuff that would be interesting.
David, I really appreciated you bringing up kind of that portrait of an eighth grader, because all of those things they're talking about are what contribute to that. It's not just the academics. And so it really, you can see the full picture, the full circle.
Yeah. And having, everyone back on campus, chronic absenteeism down, people focused on all these things, using data to drive changes for better performance. I don't know how you're going to encapsulate that into 3 points.
All good stuff.
That's right.
It's all good stuff. Yeah.
Future agenda items, is there anything that's on people's minds for?
So December is going to be a big month. We have our data presentation. And so just for the board to have, I've had a preliminary meeting with our team and we've talked about some of the data that we'll be presenting. The board has given me some feedback about specific things that we're interested in seeing. What I've asked the team is to really look at the data and to be able to tell a story with the data. And I think one of our goals is around engaging all learners and really closing that opportunity gap. And so I think they're going to have some focus on that percent of students that were not meeting standards and where they're at, but also acknowledging that we've got kids that are meeting standards. How are we keeping there and moving them to exceeding standards, right? And being sure that kids that were exceeding standards are staying there. And if they're not, what are we doing? So that will be at the next board meeting. We'll also have the first interim at the next board meeting. So we've got 2 big reports that will be happening at that meeting. So
Bring snacks.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it might be worthwhile to have the principal report be shorter.
Yes.
So that they can focus on the data piece is really their
I think
thing.
that's perfect.
If you guys are good with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Michael's already started working on first hour.
Oh,
Good.
nice. Okay.
Well, we have had we will have had a subcommittee meeting, finance subcommittee.
Well, yes, the finance subcommittee is coming together on December 7th and our meeting is December 12th.
Okay.
That also at that meeting is going to be a potential provisional appointment and we should talk, we
Right.
can talk about that during the board governance section,
Mhm.
but that'll be another third thing. So I'm not sure there's anything we should add to that.
No.
Plenty.
Going through the reports from the trustees, starting with trustee Irwin.
Yeah, so today I spent, I was at Basage from 8:30 to 11:30. I spent a little bit of time with TK and then I visited each of the third grade classrooms as well. Very impressed by everything I saw there. It was, I kind of mentioned to you guys already about TK and kind of seeing some of the things they're working on and the assessment models that they're trying out. And then in third grade, I think what I was most impressed by was, looking at the differentiation happening in each of the classrooms, with the small groups. They were writing Thanksgiving poems about things they like to eat, and I left there very hungry. Apple pie and, the turkey roasting and all these things. No, it was a really, really nice visit.
Any committees or other things that you had?
We had the policy committee
Right.
meeting, so I had a million questions because it was my first one. But went through a lot of stuff in detail. And then we had communications committee since I think
We
have.
postponed it because we were supposed to have it tomorrow, but because of the school law enforcement partnership meeting that I want to attend and Wendy and Cass, so we've pushed it out a week, so we haven't had it yet.
Oh, okay, but we have our subcommittee meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all I have to report.
Benny?
Yeah, I visited the sixth graders the week before last week and spent the morning with them. Great experience. Couple things that stood out. I finally got the concept of like what a core teacher is and what that means, and she kind of Jenny walked me through just how she kind of connects. In this case, it was ELA and history together to kind of reinforce the subject, so that rather than you kind of learn two different things in two different ways. So I thought that was fantastic. I went to gym class and they were running the mile that day.
Oh,
Apparently they run the mile once a month.
Yeah.
they
I
do.
I was like, wow, okay. And there's some fast kids for sure. And what else? I wasn't scheduled to do this, but I ended up the woodshop teacher saw me and invited me in. Yeah, and
Mr. Dubois.
I didn't realize the extent of what I've actually never been in that room before, and just what they were doing and the woodwork that they were doing. They were learning how to use the drill press. He showed me some of the other equipment that they had, and I didn't realize this, but he says we are the last woodshop class in Marin. And I was like
middle school, yeah.
in middle school, yeah. I was very surprised by that. So just something I think we should.
Turned into like maker spaces.
Yeah.
But
And we had to put a lot of investment during the work on the buildings into a dust management system and all kinds of things. So the district really invested in maintaining that, because the choice would have been to morph the program into something that's which while valuable is much more a light version of that kind of stuff. The sawdust and the working with things is an impressive part of what we offer.
yeah, I will say that it's a very popular elective with the kids. From what I hear, maybe, it's up there. Yeah. So
It's amazing.
they all look forward.
Super lucky to have him. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
committees or anything else?
And I mentioned I took the whole family to Bye Bye Bird.
Oh, right. Good.
And so it was really good my kids to see it, actually. They're younger and they are very interested in
Okay.
doing something like that. Like they're nervous about it, but they're like, oh, this is so cool. And it was just a great event, well attended, a lot of great energy. Kids loved it. So glad that we invest in that. But no committees.
Okay.
I have some, I think, coming up though. Finance subcommittee.
That's right. So I went to the Basic Halloween Parade, which was quite impressive. It wasn't a window into classroom management or skills, but it was very well attended and a great reminder of the importance of those community traditions and things that are so important for stitching together the community. So I was glad to see that, and they're little, they're just little. And then committees and stuff, I did JLAC, which is the political committee thing. And I did Home Key too. I'll bring that up. JLAC, things like I said before are going a little bit better than people had feared in terms of a downturn in state revenues. The projected downturn in state revenues had narrowed somewhat, and so people were optimistic about that. There's a lot of conversation about different bond issues and things that are going to be on the statewide ballot for 2024. There's a big facilities bond and other things, often things that don't impact us here in Marin or in Kentfield very much. But a lot of talk about those things happening up there in Sacramento. And we're doing the trip up to Sacramento in February, I think it is, to hear from all of our representatives. So that's always interesting to see. And then we had Finance Committee, which was well attended, which was great. And we went through all the numbers. Once again, reminded that any snapshot of financials is always wrong the minute you see it, because just the nature of school finance. But directionally, I think we were focusing on the right things, and the multi-year projections and these things. We revisited the letter that we had from the county and some of the demands or observations that had about our finances. And then we have the subcommittee, which is coming together. As I mentioned earlier, the parcel tax being in 2028 is something that we needs to focus the mind. And then subcommittees in just before our next meeting.
December 7th.
December 7th. Home Key is open and being populated. I think it was about half populated when we had our meeting about 2 weeks ago. They have a funnel of people that are forget the name of the program, but it's a caseworkers and things work together to put people into the process for having access to these beds and locations at Home Key. It is now open and functioning. We had a report from local public safety officials about the presence or lack thereof of needing to respond to any issues or public safety concerns in the area. There really haven't been any. I think that's the place is just being populated now, so I think we'll wait to see how that all goes. But fingers crossed that that things are going well there. You'll remember that ECS, which is the operator of the facility, has responsibility for everything that happens inside the building, and they have agreed to have a person regular working hours outside the building in the parking lot and stuff, but they really leave anything off the building, off the site, to other community partners. And it's a complicated area for jurisdiction because, of course, the park's in charge of Hal Brown Park. CHP is in charge of the paths somehow. The sheriff is in charge of part of it, and Central Marin Police is in charge of part of it. So it's a real patchwork of public safety agencies, which is frustrating sometimes because there's not a single point of contact. But they all do seem to be very coordinated and working on that. So I will also observe the continuation of this commitment of our community to making things better. There's a pretty consistent volunteer contingent that's welcoming people there, putting toiletries and welcome basket sort of things in the rooms when they come. And it's impressive to see it coming together. Annie?
I did my seventh grade visits, which I emailed you guys about.
great, yeah.
And then I did Julie Gallagher's ALD class last week. It's for the kid, it's the academic
Academic language development.
language development. So it's a kid, it's like these kids, they're like pretty much fluent in English. But I think they're still working on like the academic piece.
So
Yeah.
they're considered, they're children that have been reclassified as as fluent English speakers. We're required by the state to monitor those children for 2 years after they're reclassified. And so we've developed this class because we realized that there was some additional supports that once they were reclassified, they're expected to be in, a classroom and to access the curriculum like anybody else. But there's still some needs that they have. And so
Mhm.
wanted to give them an opportunity to have a section that would give them that specific support. This is the third year I think she's implementing that class, and we're seeing really, really positive outcomes
Yeah,
from it.
it
when
was,
we look
I mean,
at-
it was nice. There's only like 6 kids in that class when I visited. The only concern was one of the 5th grade students, he said that he doesn't have any science or social studies because he's pulled out in like, I didn't really understand. But then a 6th grade student was like, oh yeah, that was the same for me last year.
Hmm.
I didn't have any science or social studies, but now I do. And so, I mean, I was just overhearing, the conversation, but that was kind of, I don't know if that's really the case, but it was kind of, I mean, that's not good if they're not getting those.
This was 5th grade.
Yes, he was a 5th grade student.
Maybe they had their sort of home classes and then this was taking one of their
That's what I'm thinking.
elective slots.
Yeah,
whatever
yeah, yeah,
slots.
yeah. I don't know.
I can follow up.
Yeah.
Because there's a number of things that go through my mind about what could be happening, but I'm not
Right,
positive,
right.
so I want to follow
Yeah,
up.
but it's a really nice, sweet class. Yeah. And then the policy committee with Kari and Sulfur, and that was it.
Good.
Yeah.
I forgot to say that when I was visiting 3rd grade today, I got to go to Miss Libby's class and do art. And I didn't want to leave. So great. It was
She did a nice
like a,
job. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was very nostalgic for
Yeah.
me.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
All the kids were like, whose mom are you? And I was like, well, I am a mom, but my kid's not in this class. They're like, what are you doing here? You know?
Why are you here?
Yeah, totally.
Oh, that's so funny.
Pertinent dates. Looking for my dates sheet.
So the only date on here, it should be right behind the
Yep.
CalPAS. The only date that may change, and I think it's a calendar conflict, is the safety committee. We may have to adjust the date. So I'll check in. with-
December 7th.
Yeah, it's the only date that I can think of right now.
Mhm. January is very busy.
Yeah.
Wow.
January's always
Mhm.
busy.
Yeah.
And then just highlighting for a couple people, for people to note that November 27th, that's the Monday we come back. That'll be your
That's right.
superintendent time.
Mhm. I was having a hard time figuring out what to title it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I can
know,
see
I
where you
know.
It's like a
just
State
put
of
all
the
the words
Union.
there.
That's right.
Is
That's
it like a
right.
State
is
of the Union or something? I don't
Kinda.
know.
Kinda.
Yeah.
District, I don't
Where
know.
will you do that?
Here at the district office, I went back and forth and I decided to just go ahead and do it here. And so yeah, we'll see how it goes. And, it'll help inform how I do the next one. Cause I want to do at least 2 this year and then how I do them in the future.
I do feel like the turnout will be low because it's
Not at a school
right
site.
after.
And
right
also
after
for
break.
the holidays. Yeah. maybe
Yeah.
the break.
Yeah. I don't know, just,
I think, I mean, I'm sure you have a reason, but like having it at a school site would. I
would
think
be nice too.
would-
I can adjust it to a school site.
I think
That
that's-
was
Think
the,
about it. I'm sure you thought about it.
yeah, that was the initial intent and I wanted to get it announced
Yeah.
and I didn't want to put location to be determined.
Oh, for sure.
So I can always make an adjustment and especially because I'm going to do a standalone message about it, reminder,
Yeah.
join us. So, I would do it probably at Basage first
Yeah.
and then Kent.
The second one. Yeah.
And you could also just kind of do it like the principals have their chats,
That's right.
so it could be the, superintendent chat.
Yeah.
Or
Just
something,
more
just
casual.
to kind of introduce it as like your version of what they're doing. I don't know, just an idea.
Yeah. Want to get people there.
Yeah.
Incentive, so that'll be good.
Any questions about pertinent dates?
Nope.
We should, when do you want to spend a time on the trustee vacancy?
I think we should probably talk about it now.
Okay.
So, yeah, so part of what people may not have noticed, well, I don't know if the crowd noticed, but obviously Silver's not here. And so her resignation is in effect tomorrow, November 15th. So this is the last board meeting that she's considered an active board member. And so I've been in communication with David as well as with Silver, and Beth has prepared a notice that's going to be posted in the IJ starting tomorrow. It's going to last through the 22nd of November. And that posting also, we're going to have on our website information so people can submit an application to be considered as a trustee. David and I believe, are scheduled for the 27th of November to have kind of an overview. We'll also do a recording that we can push out to the community. Applications are due the 28th of November. So it's right after the break. And so the plan is to get all those applications in. I think they're due by 4:00. It's a Google form that folks have to complete. We'll print out those Google forms and then give copies to the board to review. So you'll have an opportunity to look at those for the December 1st board meeting. And then we'll invite candidates. If the board wanted to, we could invite the candidates to the December 1st and have a potential interview there, or we can hold it at the December 12th board meeting. That's something the board should decide how you want to
Which
proceed.
is the one we're doing the data?
Yeah, there's a lot of that
So
meeting,
that
so
we
I wonder
should-
if we
I
should,
don't think we should come
if
up
we can do it the first, I think
That would
that'll
be
be
ideal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's prioritize that.
Okay. Okay. So then, so what'll happen is we'll get all that information out. So advertising will happen. This transition for Silver has been, I don't know how much it's out there. And so I am writing the next newsletter. So that'll be the main part of my notice out to the community. And then at obviously my gathering that I'm going to have, I'll highlight that as well for folks. So, you know, we'll get the information out there. It's quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Really, really quick turnaround. So, yeah, because we're not going to have another newsletter until the 27th. So we'll have to do a standalone message.
Yeah.
I think we'll have to send out a message tomorrow.
Right.
That's right.
And that's
then-
fine. We have
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
drafted that.
And the application is is quite easy. It's
Yeah.
just, do you live in the district? And it contains the 3 questions.
Yeah, it has, there's some
Yeah.
questions they answer, some
Would you
information about
prioritize?
it.
This,
Is
so yeah.
useful,
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that, Right?
Yeah.
So, hopefully we can, hopefully there are people who'll be responsive to this and people that we may know or don't know, or any avenues to make sure that this is recognized as an opportunity.
Are we announcing this to the whole public somehow? I
Yeah.
guess it's
So-
the IJ, right?
So the
That's
IJ, so then
Okay.
what I think we should do is I can finalize, I have information that we've done before, so I can pull the previous communications that we pushed out about it. We did it through Parent Square, and I can queue it up to go out at 9:00 tomorrow morning to our Kentfield community, because then it aligns with what's posted in the IJ.
That's
Good.
smart.
Good
So
idea.
that way everybody kind of gets it all at
Yeah.
the same time. And that shouldn't be hard. I can get that together fairly easy. But I do think we're gonna have to push out some reminders about that.
For sure.
And also the information meeting, which is the minute people are back from their Thanksgiving break. I think it'll be important to capture that message somehow and distribute it, make it available to people.
Yeah.
Which we'll
Okay.
do.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
So, meetings.
One other thing I was
Yes,
going to
please.
throw out there is that when I was considering, whether to join the board or not, it was really helpful to chat with current board members. And so I'm happy to talk to anybody who might be interested. I just wanted to put that out there.
That's great.
I think in the communication, what we can do is have board members and their contact information. I'll put your KSD email, not your
Great.
personal cell phone number, just everybody uniform on the
Good.
communication.
Mhm.
That any member of the board can be
Yeah, that's good.
contacted with questions. David and I would also meet with interested board
Right.
members too, to talk with them, and so the key is getting a provisional appointment, because we don't want to have special election.
That's right. Yeah.
Mainly for cost
Right.
reasons.
So
Yeah.
can you explain, just quickly provisional appointment?
So with a provisional appointment is
I
the
was one,
board
but-
ultimately, let's say there's two applicants.
Mhm.
The board will review those two applicants, and then in a public board meeting, you have an interview with each applicant individually. And then you deliberate in the public meeting,
I see.
in which you
Okay.
will provisionally appoint. And the reason it's a provisional appointment is because they are appointed into a position that was vacant. And so there's a period of time, they don't get the full 4 years that they would sit. They would take the specific time frame in which that board member stepped away. And so that's,
Okay.
I just know.
Yep.
That's provisional.
That's right.
Okay.
The question on if we're gonna do it on December 1st, should we coordinate or like think through our questions? Or how does that work?
I think we review the questions that are on the application.
Okay.
There's a
okay.
standard set of three
Standard set,
questions
okay.
that are sort of
I'm trying to remember what happened.
universal type questions.
Right, those like.
Yeah, those were the.
Those are
those
the-
were
That's what I'm
questions.
talking, okay,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
okay, yeah.
I think that in the process of discussion, we can make sure that there's adequate opportunity for each trustee to participate in, or trustees can ask any question they want,
Right,
but
right.
delving into the questions that have been provided.
Okay.
And responses that have been provided.
Mhm. The, you know, I have faith that we'll be able to do this all in the first. If we are not able to, and we do have to push it to an alternate date, I would suggest it be the 12th. We don't have to, we could convene at 4 to address this component, right? So we
Okay.
could have the board meeting start even earlier specifically to address
do
this
this.
component. So,
Okay.
so just to note, that's how, because I feel like we might have done something a little bit
Yeah.
special
I think we did.
when we brought in the new board members for the last, having to do a provisional appointment.
Okay, wait, so if there's more than one person that applies, then the goal is on the first, they'll come in, we'll interview them, and then we vote for one of them at the first meeting, at the December 1st.
Take action at that
got
meeting,
it,
yeah.
got it.
That's
And
taking
those-
action in a public
That's right.
meeting that's been properly agenda.
Okay,
Posted.
And those applications are all public.
That's
public
right.
information
Okay,
too. They're
yeah.
out there attached to the board agenda.
okay.
Anything I'm missing that we didn't hit?
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah.
Meetings and norms, I thought it went very well. I was glad that I had my bullet points about public speaking. I did do it out of order, but I thought that reminding people about the
That was great.
parameters around
That was really good.
better
That was
than the
really good.
reading the whole paragraph.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
for sure.
I really
Yeah,
appreciated that.
that was
yeah.
really good.
And I do appreciate the new agendas and everything being embedded in there, so
Yeah.
thank you for that. That's a really big help.
Yeah.
And I'm not finding as much opportunity to incorporate how it aligns with different things on the LCAP. You know, where it says the LCAP goals 1 through 4. Anyway, that's just me, but
Meaning you don't think we need to have.
I don't know. I'm not feeling how it's
Think
How it
adding-
ties together.
adding much. I know what they are and I
Yeah.
know, I just don't know how much it helps and I don't refer to them.
Mhm.
Maybe it'd be useful to refer to them by name instead of goal number 3.
I think, well, I don't know. We could
No,
talk
we
about
would
that.
do-
That could be a
yeah.
governance conversation. I think the reason that we landed with that is trying to make it more visible.
Right.
Our goals and when we're doing, whatever we're doing, why we're doing it. like,
Yeah.
How it aligns to our goals.
Well, and remember we had the workshop about, an effective board and
Yeah.
that a certain percentage of time should be spent,
Right.
on those goals,
That's
right?
right.
So I think that might have been
Yeah.
sort of the genesis
yes,
for
yes.
that.
Yes.
So maybe
but-
a short summary of the goal rather than number 3 and number 4.
Yeah.
Just so we can say,
Yeah.
this applies to this.
Oh, yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, to make it, that's clearly making it more visible.
That's
'cause
right.
I know them,
Right.
just
You know
because we work
exact-
with
yeah.
them, but if you're a member of the community and you
Yeah.
look at those and you see that, it
Yeah.
doesn't have much meaning.
Exactly.
Anything else?
No.
We are adjourning at 7:53.
Hey, look at that.